Out of the gates and ready to go. Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow on this Tuesday edition. We are live from 6th and Peabody with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine across the OutKick network. That includes the YouTube channel you are currently watching. We hope you'll subscribe while you're there to all of the great content from OutKick and across the great radio platform, the great station you're listening to right now. A lot to get to today. After a busy and long holiday weekend, let's see. Michael Mckenry will join us to break down all things Major League Baseball. That's in 20 minutes, and it includes a Major League Baseball pitcher who stands for his faith versus what the Dodgers are currently doing with Pride Night, inviting a very specific group which mocks the Catholic faith. We'll dive into that with Michael coming up in 20 minutes. Ben Mintz, Mincy, formerly of Barstool and Wake Up Mincy. He will be on the show in hour number 3. A lot to dive into with Mincy. First, starting with his departure, his ouster at Barstool, and then certainly some SEC topics, which include spring meetings that are going on. We've got a big topic with that coming up. And Scotty and MJ continue to have beef. Chad, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. An ouster at Barstool that no one that actually works for Barstool wanted to happen. So we'll talk with Mincy about that, and we all
Except
know
for the company that
why
owns
it
them.
happened. Yeah, the parent company were the only ones that wanted it. Basically, people who didn't know him were the ones who wanted him gone, and everyone who knew him didn't want him gone. So we'll talk to him about that. Hutton, it was a long weekend. Those long weekends always feel like they could be maybe one day longer, but excited to be back here on a short week.
I wish the Celtics and Heat were one game longer, going 8-game series instead of 7. That was a great series.
Yeah, it was.
Going back to Game 6, which we'll dive into, and then last night with the Heat rebounding after holding a 3-0 lead, Celtics coming back to tie the series 3 games apiece. We've never seen it happen where a team comes back to claim the series and advance down 0-3 in the NBA. Celtics had it. Back at home, juiced arena, and Chad, the Heat showed up like they did the first 3 games instead of the previous 3.
And it's such a cool series because it's such a spotlight for perseverance with both teams when you look at it. The Celtics were terrible. Grant Williams was a punchline. He barked at the dog, and the dog bit back with Jimmy Butler in that Game 2 loss at home. Then they go to Miami and South Beach and get smacked around in Game 3. And we're here on this show, and everyone else is mocking the Celtics as being dead.
Yeah,
down 0-3. And, they actually quit. They took all their starters out early in the fourth quarter of a game they're getting blown out in. Instead, they bounce back. They win a big game on the road. They go home. They win easily in Boston. They go back on Sunday night Saturday night, long weekend. Saturday night down in Miami. They went on a Derek White buzzer beater to tie it up at 3. And then it shifts from, boy, the Celtics were dead, now they're alive, to that buzzer beater sure feels like the Heat are now dead. Yeah. And they're about to undergo the biggest choke job in the history of NBA playoffs. And instead, they go back to Boston. They book a flight for Denver, not back home to Miami after that game, and they whip the Celtics. So just a terrific spotlight for perseverance on both sides of this series. And I thought that was the highlight of the whole thing, was both teams had a chance to get off the mat and prove themselves, and they both did it over the course of a long series, which led to a lot of drama. Now, much like the 7-game series between the Celtics and Sixers in the previous series, I'd like to see a competitive Game 7. The Celtics blew out the Sixers in Game 7, and the Heat, they blow out the Celtics on their home court in this Game 7. So I would have preferred very close, down-to-the-wire Game 7s, but with what we got in that classic of a Game 6 down in Miami, I think it all but made up for a bad Game 7.
Yeah, the bad Game 7 is stunning to me, really, because of the way the arena was jacked up for this. You know, they had all hands on deck trying to pump up the crowd, and within the first 3 minutes of the first quarter, you could tell Boston was not going to hit their threes. They are so reliant from beyond the arc. And that's what they shot their way back into it. And in Game 6, they didn't shoot very well at all, only hit 5 threes and attempted like 20-something, and still won that game on the crazy tip-in with 0.1 seconds to go. What a finish there just to get it to a Game 7 with White's tip-in off the missed three-point shot. And the quick three as well with 3 seconds to go, following 3 straight free throws from Jimmy Butler, who had not been playing well, and then hits 3 free throws where he knows he's got a chance to just win the game, and then 0.1 on the clock. White tips it in for the win, and they're headed back to Boston, and then they come out that bad shooting in Game 7.
Well, and that's why you take the quick shot. I mean, that was smart by the Celtics to get that shot up quick. It's a bad first shot, but you have the chance to tip in when you do that. And Derek White just barely getting it in. Incredible Game 6. Wish it would have been a closer Game 7. But the Heat, second team in NBA history to go from 8 seed to NBA Finals. The 1999 New York Knicks did this before. They lost to the San Antonio Spurs in that 1999 NBA Finals. Will it be a similar fate for this 8 seed as they get ready to take on the Denver Nuggets?
Credit to the officials, by the way, in this game. The official who called it good, that tip in, and they went to the review, but he had already said the basket was good. They could have used that at the wedding reception where Heat fans were going crazy, and then they realized they have to pipe down after the celebration. They started celebrating with 3 seconds left before the ball was in play. Then they see the missed 3, and you can hear them go crazy at the reception. By this time, the ref's counting it good, and they're going to review it. Someone's running through the dance floor telling them to please calm down. This game is – we're not going to the finals just yet. People are dancing. They got a Heat flag running through the reception.
I'm going to give a review of what's going on here. You've got 2 things at play. 1, very intoxicated people. 2, people who aren't real sports fans that are doing this and looking for any reason to celebrate at this wedding, because any true Heat fan would have watched to see if it was tipped in.
They did have the flag.
They had it ready to go because it's a party and they were doing it all for aesthetics. They're not Heat fans. They're looking for a reason to party, and they're drunk.
Looks like Miami to me.
If you're a sports fan and you were really into your team, I'd like to ask every sports fan that's watching or listening right now, have you ever started celebrating that way when the ball is tipped and immediately missed and immediately tipped in, and you're not sitting there waiting to see if there's a review or if they hit the shot when there's a celebration happening? These are non-sports fans. These are drunk people that were looking for a reason to get more drunk and drink more and party, and they found it. Unfortunately, it was for false reasons because their beloved Heat lost the game.
And the three free throws to seal it, I thought it was done at that point. And then you take the quick timeout. That allows the inbounds. I like the new rule. That's what set up this game-winning play to begin with, where you take the ball on your own end of the floor after the timeout, and it set up the game-winning play. Apparently, Skip Bayless's wife wasn't happy with him and his reaction. Can you imagine watching a game with Skip Bayless? He had to admit
I can't keep up with Skip Bayless's teams. Well, why is he so worked up about this? I don't understand.
I don't think he's a Heat fan. He's a Spurs fan, right?
Yeah, but he's a Texas guy.
Yeah, I think
because he's Cowboys, he's Spurs.
I don't even know if this is his team. I'm saying it's just he's rooting one way or the other, and he apparently went crazy based on whatever he predicted on the show.
He had to have a bunch of money on it, is what I'm thinking. But I just
it was a Saturday night for Skip Bayless.
Isn't that odd to get that worked up over 2 teams you're indifferent with? Unless you have a ton of money on it?
I just think he's constantly on one side or the other. That's just how he's wired.
I love
to the point of screaming.
Well, the game's over, and his wife, is very nice and says, "Would you like to get something to eat? Would you like me to make you something to eat?" And his response was, "Eat." How could you ask me if I want to eat food at a time like this? And if I'm his wife, I'm thinking,
he's frantically texting.
This isn't your
tweeting.
team. I mean, what is your? I'd get it if it was like it's
him.
The Spurs. And he's that worked up over his team, but you're going to be this emotional over 2 teams, the Heat and the Celtics, neither one of which are your team?
Bayless in the doghouse. Cool. It's a Tuesday. That's how I would describe that for Skip Bayless.
I love
I can't imagine being in a room with him watching a game.
I think
it's insufferable.
It's weird when being fake goes over to being at home. I understand fake debate is what they're trying to do on the show.
No, he's constantly tweeting during the game.
Is it because he's getting worked up over people tweeting? I'm trying to really get into the psychology.
No, he doesn't
not
follow
speaking
anyone.
to someone, because if it's your team, I totally understand you're going to snap at someone quickly when your team loses. But why is he so worked up over 2 teams that aren't his? he's a huge fan of sports.
Welcome
clearly.
to First Take / Undisputed. I mean, that's the description of their show. We get worked up on over teams and headlines that we're not passionate about.
It's just
that's what they do.
Maybe it's because he was defending his take on it, and that's why he was so passionate about it.
Yeah, I guess
he passionately said that the Celtics were going to lose, and he passionately said the Heat were going to win, so he was upset over it.
Denver's a massive favorite for a reason now. It was Boston. Now it's Denver, according to Vegas. Because Boston didn't attack the rim at all in that series. Denver is just solid throughout, and they're definitely crashing the boards with Jokic.
Feels like failure now if Denver doesn't win it.
Yeah.
Going against the 8 seed. I mean, the Heat, good story. They've got a lot of momentum. They got off the mat after looking like they were going to. It looked like there was going to be about 10 days in between each team series to go against the other one. Now there's 3 days in between the Heat and a Game 7 to Game 1 of the NBA Finals. But now suddenly, is it too long of a layoff? That's what we're going to be asking before Thursday's Game 1 for the Nuggets to get out of a routine. Maybe. That could affect the game. They get the game at home at least in Denver.
These are 5 or 6 point games during the regular season between the two.
Yeah.
They only played twice.
I'm fully expecting a good series.
Well, the way
I think
Miami
it'll feel
plays,
very disappointing if the Nuggets don't win it.
And Tyler Hero could return.
I'm not going to yell at my wife and say, I can't eat right now if they lose, like Skip Bayless. But it does feel disappointing. I want the Nuggets to win. It would feel disappointing to the Nuggets if they don't win it. But I fully expect a 6 or 7 game series, the way the Heat's been playing.
It is deja vu for Jimmy Garoppolo. Reports that he's not able to pass a physical with the Las Vegas Raiders. Deja vu because we have seen this storyline play out just last year around this time. In fact, a couple of months prior. And the timing of it is very reminiscent of what we saw with Jimmy G in San Francisco, where he could have had surgery on that shoulder from last year earlier in the offseason to then be ready to go around training camp or be ready to pass a physical in order to be traded. He delayed that procedure until March, I believe, of 2022, and that kept San Francisco from being able to move him via trade because teams wanted him to be able to pass a physical. Otherwise, they're not going to trade for him and pick up the salary. San Fran ended up keeping him. We know it ended up working out in San Francisco's favor up until December when he hurt his foot. And he didn't have surgery on the foot injury that kept him out until March. And now he can't pass a physical with the Raiders, even though they gave him the exemption when they first signed him in free agency this offseason. They don't owe him a dime until he passes a physical, and then there's a second part of this where he plays in a game and does not re-injure the same foot. But what do you do if you're the Raiders now, knowing that he may not be ready to go, and your backup options are Brian Hoyer and Aiden O'Connell, and your free agent options right now are Carson Wentz, Matt Ryan, and Teddy Bridgewater. You could also trade, but at this point, you have to let the timetable play out with Jimmy G. You could cut bait with him and not owe him anything, but I don't think that's the route or path they want to go because when they signed him, they gave him the failed physical exemption, the health exemption. But they should have seen what happened last year and known, hey, this is a procedure we want you to get done. Do it now instead of waiting later. And because of this, the timetable on Jimmy Garoppolo, who when healthy wins games. But the other truth of that is that's only about 50% of the time, the win healthy part. And they don't have a great option after dumping Derek Carr, who was healthy, in exchange for Jimmy G, who's going to be available for 50% of the games at best, and that's based on his starting career throughout the NFL. Here we go again, running it back. And this is an organization that needs to win. It's Josh McDaniels who needs to win. And right now, they don't have a quarterback that can get the job done for them because he's either on the training table, electing to get surgery later in the offseason than sooner in the offseason. And the other options are backup options who are good to finish out a game, but not good to go win you a division and compete for a Super Bowl.
And it leads me again to being surprised again that they didn't target quarterback with a top 10 pick this year.
Yeah, they could have done that.
Right now
you've got
Josh McDaniels, who's known as a quarterback guy,
Yeah.
who's Tom Brady's guy for years and years, and here they set with the number 7 pick, and Jimmy G is the option. I mean, he's okay when fully healthy, but is he really going to be healthy again? Hutton just laid out all the contract addendums that tell you that he's not healthy and may not ever be healthy again. And you had a high draft pick and you don't use it on quarterback. I'm surprised by that. I thought in the build-up to the draft, they were a team to watch for one of those quarterbacks. And instead, Will Levis was a name that was thrown out for the Raiders a lot, that he would match what McDaniels wants to do. Instead, they're rolling with Jimmy Garoppolo and nothing else.
And the rumors are circulating, and Vegas's odds are right there too. The odds-on favorite, if Garoppolo's not healthy, for who would be the Week 1 starter for the Raiders is Tom Brady, who owns a small percentage of the Las Vegas Raiders, but not official yet. Not official because the NFL owners have not approved the purchase. And part of this is what they want is the assurance that Brady is officially retired for good. But if he wants to come out and play and join the Raiders, hypothetically, all he has to do is rescind his offer because it hasn't technically been approved yet. He's, as of today, not one of the minority owners of the Las Vegas Raiders. They're ready to submit that, and they have that done, but it hasn't been voted through by the league's ownership group. It takes 24 yes votes to get that done. So can you do both? No. Could he do this? Yes. But he would have to rescind his offer to be the Raiders owner in order to play as the team's quarterback. And here's the other thing, too. He wanted to be the Raiders quarterback. He wanted to play in Las Vegas. We know that through Rob Gronkowski, who said everything was set up perfectly except for John Gruden nixing the idea of bringing Brady and Gronk together to Vegas. So there's that other portion of this story that's not going to go away anytime soon.
Hutton, I have one word in response to this story. Please. Please let this be true. Please, Tom. Please come back. Please let this be a storyline. Please be a Las Vegas Raider. This would be incredible. We thought Aaron Rodgers with the Jets in New York was going to be fun to watch. Think about Tom Brady going into retirement for a second time and then coming out to quarterback the Las Vegas Raiders. Please let it be true. Please. I don't wish ill on anyone. I hope Jimmy Garoppolo's fine health-wise overall. But if there's a little tweak to the foot that won't let him start the first game and it leads to Tom Brady being the quarterback, all for it. What an amazing story that would be. I'd love to follow it.
And as Jim Gray pointed out on the Let's Go podcast with Tom, Brady once said, hey, I'll retire when I suck. And Gray pointed out, you don't suck, man. You still got some a year in you if you wanted to play. You don't suck. Does he get that itch? Don't know. But we do know he wants to be a part of the Raiders organization, and they may have a need for it. I don't think it's immediate, but they can get out of the Garoppolo contract without owing him a dime based on the fact that he can't pass a physical currently. Coming up, Michael Mckenry joins us, Major League Baseball headlines and more, including a pitcher for the Nationals, starting pitcher who has voiced his opinion on social media about what the Dodgers are doing, celebrating with a pride group that openly mocks Catholicism. That's next on Hot Mic.
So let's see the video that John Morant was dumb enough to have posted. A guy said this: John Morant has more money to go anywhere in the world, and he chooses to go to Instagram Live. Now, John Morant is a fool. We know John Morant is a fool. It was two fools sitting down, Jalen Rose and John Morant, for a ridiculously idiotic fake interview a few months ago, all right? So John Morant does what every NBA player does. He hangs out. There's always a little guy. Usually it's a little white guy. But watch this video. John Morant's going to flash a gun. All right, you're that stupid, fine. But watch the little idiot driving the car as you watch the video that ultimately is going to cost John Morant a ton of money. We can't believe he's any dumber than he is. He's already the dumbest dude walking except for Dwight Howard, and we'll get into that. But watch this video. There they are. Look at this idiot right here. He's looking around like, hey, am I cool? Oh, he's dancing like a little, so John Morant's trying. John Morant looks like a girl. I hate to say it, but he does. Look at it. I mean, he flashes a gun, and then they put the thing down. Now it's been deleted. But, I mean, his little buddies look like, I don't know. They kind of look like the Bengals back in. Look at this little guy. There's always a little punk like that hanging out with a star. There's always a little punk. Shaq had a little white guy. I remember when we were filming Blue Chips. Everybody usually has a little white guy. But I'm telling you, this dude is about as hard as this cup of coffee. There ain't nothing hard. He looks like a girl. Seriously, if I were advising John Morant, you know what I would tell him? Cut your hair and get serious about your craft. Just change everything about you. Seriously, just change everything about you. You're a great player. You're a great talent. You have a great family, although those people have lost their mind as well, his family. But I'd tell you, get serious about your craft. Put your life into your craft. Forget about the other crap. Cut your hair, change your look, change your thing, change everything about you, or grow your hair longer. I don't care. But what I usually used to tell people, and I know I'm the old guy, but it always works, cut your hair, get serious about your craft. I've told guys in business, cut your hair, get serious about your craft. Now, well, that's racist. Hey, what does hair have to do with it? No, it just means that you're changing up what you are doing. It means you are getting serious about what you should be serious about. Because let's be honest, this guy's career could be over. I don't know. You get playing with a gun, next thing you know, you could end up in jail. Career could be over. So get serious about the one thing that works the most. Did you ever see Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, Isaiah Thomas, Karl Malone, John Stockton, Barkley? Did you ever see him with, something to distract? You never did. Do you ever see LeBron James with something to distract? No. LeBron James serious about his craft. He's not out there trying to put purple in his hair or put green in his hair or make his hair look like my mother's back in the 1970s where you had the beehive going like Morant. No, you never saw that. Of course you don't. I'm serious, you don't. You know, the girl that comes in the office with purple hair is never the leading seller in the office. It's just, she's just not. The guy that comes in with all of a sudden a face tattoo is not the leading producer in the company. He just never is. People that are serious about their craft get things done. People that know and understand, hey, look, we got to get this done. And if I'm John Morant, you can play kid, you can play tough guy, you can play a little child, you can play try to look like a girl, I don't know. You can have all that feminine energy that John Morant has off the court and your little effeminate friends off the court, but it's a man's league.
Sixth and Peabody, our location with E-Hop here and Old Smoky Moonshine. Hutton and Withrow, Hot Mike across the OutKick network. Coming up, Scottie Pippen calling MJ a horrible player. We will dive in on that.
Speaking of a poor choice of words.
Yeah.
My goodness. Horrible player. Michael Jordan.
We'll try to dissect this. Michael Mckenry dissects all things Major League Baseball with us. Every other week, I should say. He's in for Schilling today, MLB analyst and analyst for the Pittsburgh Pirates. The Fort joins us now. Hope you're doing well, Michael.
Did I hear you say anybody said Michael Jordan wasn't a good player?
That would be Scottie
I'm
Pippen
in shock
who said
over here.
that. Scottie Pippen said this. Yes.
Man, what are people drinking nowadays? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Wow. All right, sorry.
well-
Good, guys. I'm doing well. Just had a little mini heart attack, but I'm okay now.
Okay. Hope all is well on your end. Hey, so Trevor Williams, who you know well, I believe he was with the Pirates organization for 4 or 5 seasons a handful of years ago. Right-hander now for the Nationals. He's called out the Dodgers for wavering and coming back around on the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, a pride group that openly mocks Catholicism. He's a devout Catholic and says that fellow Catholics should reconsider their support of the Los Angeles Dodgers based on what they're doing, that it's in violation of the discrimination policy that's within the Dodgers organization and each organization across the league, and that everyone from on any walk of life should be welcomed at a Major League Baseball park on any given night over one or different groups. And it's a lengthy statement, but you know him well. You know Trevor Williams well. I'm assuming he's very genuine and very thoughtful in how he put this out there on social media today.
There's no doubt about it. And he does so much good for his community. If you don't know 34 Project, look that up. He's doing that for a friend, but this guy's a great human being, and he's speaking from his heart. He's the Catholic representative. He was for the Pirates. I'm sure he is with the Nationals, and anywhere else he's been, he's probably represented his Catholic faith on his sleeve no matter what. I don't understand the digs. If you want to have a night, whatever, everybody should be represented however they want. They can be who they want, decide who they are in that given day. It doesn't matter to me. We're going to love them as Christians and as Catholics. But the reality of it is we're all people. We're all going to make mistakes. The one thing I'll say, guys, the Dodgers MLB need to answer questions. They need to get out in front of things, whether it's a rule change, whether it's a mistake, whether it's a penalty that they bring down on a player. They do a really good job of running into the woods and hiding, where our God ran into the woods and meditated, fast, and made great decisions when he came out. They never come out. They never come say anything, and that's the bother I have. Just get out in front of it. Say, hey, this is why we did this. Maybe we made a mistake, but we're going to own this, period. But they don't. They run away from it, and that's the sad part about the reality we live. Guys can run away, women can run away no matter what, and never answer for what they say, what they do, especially when it's a social media society.
Well, and it's first off, the statement from Trevor Williams was terrific. It's hard to poke holes in anything that he put out there. I thought it was very well written. And he points to the over 4 million members of the Catholic community in Los Angeles County alone with Dodgers fans. Now, I post this on Twitter, and now we kind of get into the cultural game of tennis, right? This is how it happened. First, the Dodgers did it. Then they disinvited this group because Marco Rubio and others spoke out against it. Well, then a lot of people in Los Angeles spoke out against the Dodgers for doing that. So what happened? They re-invited this group. Now you have Trevor Williams doing this. People are pointing to faith nights, at minor league ballparks or major league ballparks. And I think that the key point is here, I've never been a part of a faith night, Michael, or seen one where the faith night group involved is going around the concourse openly mocking the gay community. That's the difference here, right? If you want to point to differences on this and what Trevor Williams is bringing up, they are honoring a group that openly mocks Christian faith and the Catholic religion with what they're doing. This seems like a real problem for the Dodgers, and kudos to Trevor Williams for pointing all this out and being bold enough to say it and do it in a very thoughtful and rational way.
Guys, no standard never lives. And that's the problem. You can't stand on a sea of water and expect to stand there and not drown. And that's what the Dodgers are doing. That's what MLB is doing. They're just throwing out different things with no rhyme, no reason, no standard, no values behind it. And that's a problem. It's always going to be a problem. You can live and die by your standards and values. Maybe you just don't know. Maybe you made a mistake. But at least you can go to a table and have a conversation. The one thing about a faith night, I helped start the one in Pittsburgh. I've spoken at a lot. I speak at a couple every single year, is everyone's welcome. There's no one that's not welcome. If you don't believe, that's fine. Come hang out. We're not trying to throw things down your throat. At least I'm not. I can't speak for every Christian. I can't speak for every Catholic. They suck too at times. That's the reality. But we're all people. We're all lost in some way, shape, or form. We're trying to grab a hold of some group that can kind of build us up, make us feel a little bit better, and hopefully bring the best out in us and vice versa to them. And that's not what we're doing. We're always mock, shame, divided. That's not a way to live.
Clayton Kershaw has also talked about this openly. You know, it's not just going to be other players from around the league. They're going to have players on their own roster in their own clubhouse that are going to speak on this.
Yeah, why should it affect the game? Right? The guys that are going to play the game shouldn't have to wear a certain jersey, shouldn't have to do anything. Should go out there and have to play. If they don't believe in something, that's their right. I'm pretty sure we live in America still, and that's the right we have. You know, it has nothing to do with the way they play the baseball game. Who cares? Let them go out, let them do it. And every time politics, religion, anything gets kind of thrown into sports, it ends up hurting it. You know, we should all just love each other the best we can, honor each other's beliefs, and then try to have a conversation. And that's the problem. There's never a conversation. It just kind of dies. That's why I love you guys. You throw things out there and you're willing to talk about it, whether you believe or don't believe, you're at least willing to debate, because no matter what, somebody's going to learn something on that given day.
Yeah, and Chad and I are firm on this. If I'm going to a game, I don't care who I'm sitting next to at the stadium. You know,
that's one of the great things about sports.
One of the few spots, that in a concert, you know, where you're going, you really don't care who you're sitting next to, as long as you're there to watch whatever is the entertainment going on. And it's a melting pot, and that's what it's taken away in this instance. Michael, speaking of pitchers, Chris Bassett openly admitted, like, hey, it's on me. It's tipping pitches to Aaron Judge a couple of weeks ago. Judge, of course, post game said he heard chirping going on in the Yankees dugout, and that's what he was looking over there prior to a couple of pitches late in that at bat before he hit a home run, the second of that night. What ended up being an easy Yankees win. But Bassett has come out and said that Judge was lying in his reasoning for it. Here's Bassett on the homer.
So when the Judge stuff was going on, were you cognizant of it? Did you watch the video afterward?
Yeah, we knew what was going on. So I'll say this about the whole situation: they knew we were tipping, and they were relaying tips. Is that illegal? No, it's not illegal. Is it kind of in that gray area of like, all right, if the first base and third base coach are having to relay tips, is that kind of a gray area where it's like, should that be allowed for first and third base coaches to do? You can argue that back and forth all you want. Judge's response to it, I have no problem with it. Was it a lie? Yeah, it was a lie. What do you want him to do? Come out and say, hey, all their pitchers were tipping, and I'm going to tell them how they're tipping. I just think he kind of made up a story just to basically kind of say, like, I'm not going to tell them they're tipping. Like, why would I say that?
But it was so obvious. That was with Chris Rose there, Bassett. It was so obvious, though, Michael, that he was looking to the dugout pre-pitch to know exactly what was going on. There's chirping in every game, every inning that would not be distracting for Aaron Judge. In this case, to me, it was obvious the day after what was going on. And I'm all for it. But I wish, if I'm Judge over the Yankees, I don't want to make it that obvious.
Is there a gray area that he talked about there, where he says, is there a gray area with the third base coach and the first base coach getting involved, and where he's getting the signal from? We can debate that. Is there a gray area? Because all I've heard is, hey, if you're doing something to tip your pitches, all's fair if you're not using a video evidence or electronic device or anything else with everyone. Or is there actually a gray area that Chris Bassett is bringing up there, Michael?
No gray area for me. If it's on field and you're not wearing a device, you're not using someone from the stands, you're not using the camera wells. There's a lot of different things guys have used over the years and teams have used, and you try to figure out ways to combat it. Now we have all these electronics in the game. I mean, it's just a matter of time before someone hacks that pitch comm. I mean, that's a reality. I mean, it's a frequency. Somebody's going to hack it, and somebody's going to get it. It'll probably be in the playoffs. They'll probably decide a playoffs. I mean, you have to look and start to combat things that may come to life. There's guys that literally bet their career on guys tipping pitches, like Delgado with the Mets. He always had a terrible first half and went ballistic in the second half because he would have his notebook of tip pitches. I remember when Daniel Murphy told me all these things, I was mind blown. And then come to find out, every single guy you watch, especially being an analyst, I get to watch it with 10 different views. Everybody tips. The catcher gives away the sign. If you're using different elements on the field, whether it's the guy on deck whether it's the first base coach, third base coach, which Milwaukee was very good at when I was in Pittsburgh. That's just you being smart and intelligent. They're giving you an opportunity to take advantage of them. You got to take it when you can. I mean, it's very, very hard to trust. A lot of teams tried that I was on when I played in Pittsburgh. Anytime I could, when we had that bullpen that was on the field, I could steal the signs and I would try to relay it to my guys when I wasn't playing. I'd go down and protect the guy, and I never would try to catch there unless it was late in the ball game to try to relay signs. And we won some games because of that. That's a reality. You have to do everything you can to win a baseball game. And that's part of the game. I don't think, going outside the field is, and there's rumors that some teams do that. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. Maybe they figured out some other things, or create an algorithm like Houston did and wear a device. I don't think it was a trash can, by the way. I'm still going to argue that till I'm dead and gone, because that makes no sense, because you can't hear a trash can, period.
And just staying on the pitching element, Chad, Strider, fastest to 100 strikeouts, 61 innings pitched. Put this in perspective for us, other than just the numbers, knowing that it's the fastest since 1893, since they moved the mound. But, Michael, in perspective, just based on a generality, how many innings is the average pitcher pitching before he gets to 100 strikeouts?
Well, first off, it's Tom Selleck and Craig Kimbrell having a baby is what we're talking here. Tom Selleck and Craig Kimbrell, because the mustache is off the charts.
Yes.
Mr. Baseball.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, this hasn't been done in 100 years. What he did, Jacob deGrom did it in 61 2/3. He's been the best pitcher over the last 6 years when he's healthy, 7 years. But Strider's still 24, 25 years old. He's got thunder thighs. He's got an incredible mustache that has to be hard to focus when you're hitting. And then he has electric stuff. And he's a guy that is so cerebral in what he's trying to do. He focuses on his extension. What that means is this guy's not even 6 foot tall. Maybe he says he's 6 foot, maybe with a little booster. He is at 93 percentile, last I looked, at closest release to the plate, at how small he is. So that defies gravity with his fastball. It makes it not drop as fast as other guys. So I asked Andrew McCutcheon recently, I was like, tell me about Strider. I caught him as a kid. He had electric stuff, was all over the place, but it seems like he's honed in. He goes, dude, he literally throws a fastball and you have to think about swinging almost a foot above it to try to hit it. But then you think you're going to get the heater and he throws that breaking ball and you have no shot. So he's literally a closer like Craig Kimbrell that happens to pitch 6 or 7 innings every single night. What he's doing is just remarkable. This early in the season, we've seen it for short stints, but if he does this all season, he's a Cy Young, period.
Well, let's stick with that Braves rotation, because Mike Soroka came back last night against the Oakland A's. The 11th win of the season, by the way, for the A's against Mike Soroka and the Braves. That record is 11-45. I think they are. When I saw them, thinking this is only their 11th win of the season. Here we are entering June at this point. But how big is Soroka returning to that lineup or that pitching rotation for a Braves team that has been injured in that rotation so far this season?
I think it's incredible that they're in a place where he doesn't have to become the guy. He was the guy when he left. When he hurt that Achilles, he was the guy. He's been through a lot. I think it's going to make him that much better, especially having Charlie Morton, some guys that have been through some serious injuries and come back and been better. I think they've surrounded him with the right people, the right staff, including the pitching staff, but also the coaching staff, that are going to make him better than he could ever imagine to be. A lot of times when guys come up and they just have instant glory, they don't really understand what failure is. But then they go through some type of catastrophic injury. Maybe it's God forbid, a death in the family, or we just saw the White Sox closer just get over cancer. That gives you a perspective you cannot get anywhere else. And that's just going to make him better. So I think the pressure that he's not going to have on him, because they're out in front, they're playing very, very well. When their offense isn't good, their pitching's good. When their pitching's not good, their offense is good. Everything's firing all cylinders. So he doesn't have to put the weight of the world on top of his shoulders. So that's really, really good to see.
Let's go rapid fire with Michael McKenry. Now Memorial Day weekend has passed. We've got a sense of what teams are made of, maybe what they're not made of, and where they need to make up come the trade deadline later this summer. But biggest surprise to you out of the gates of the season would be who or which team?
Well, first up, the Oakland A's with 11 wins could not have predicted a team to be that bad, period. Even the Oakland A's, because we're seeing what Tampa did. I remember us talking early in the season. Neither one of you guys thought Tampa was going to be any good. Those teams seemed to surprise. But come to player, Nolan Gorman. If you don't know who that is, St. Louis second baseman. He really didn't have a position. He came up as a third baseman. They found one because he's absolutely destroying the ball. He's almost matched his home run total from last year, making better swing decisions. And if you look right now, he could possibly be in that MVP talk just because of the numbers he's putting up. It's really, really special. I don't think he's in there. Probably top 5, though.
Biggest disappointment?
Once again, the Oakland A's and MLB. I think we need a floor. I'm with the Pittsburgh Pirates. They write me a paycheck, but the reality of it is we need a floor. We need a $100 million floor. It needs to happen yesterday, and I think it's going to make the game better. I don't think you can argue that Steve Cohen spending $300 million made them any better, but the tanking problem is an issue, and not putting quality baseball out there because they're moving the next year. That's the reality. They're just saying whatever. We don't care about the stadium. We don't care about the product. We don't care about anything. The reality is that's saying we don't care about the fans, and that's not okay.
Front runner for the Cy Young?
Strider in the NL, and I'm going to go with Garrett Cole in the AL, and there's a reason, because Ohtani is going to be the MVP.
Okay, so MVP in the AL, Ohtani, and in the NL,
he's always if he's alive and playing, he's MVP. Like you cannot argue with two players in one. You just can't. Like even if he's an average hitter, he's still better than everyone else. So sorry. Yeah, that's a tangent I get on all the time.
Yeah,
it's remarkable.
And then in the NL,
the NL, which one?
MVP.
Oh, Acuna Jr. by far. Guy's going to do something that's unprecedented if he keeps going. He's still hitting close to 330. He's going to be 40-40 guy. I mean, he's literally what Bo Jackson could have been at his best right now. I mean, what he's doing is just remarkable.
I saw him get thrown out on a steal last night and was shocked when I saw it. That's how good he's been all year. I was like, whoa, someone actually threw him out at second. You just see it so
hard
few
to see
times.
Now. Yeah. And finally, favorite rule change?
Well, my least favorite to start off with is the bases. I still don't get it. And all it wants my head to think about is a Papa John's pizza, because it looks like a Papa John's pizza box.
It does.
So thanks. I'm a lot fatter, MLB, for that. Appreciate it. And then honestly, I have liked the time shift. I still don't like all the nook and crannies with it, but it's been good, and it rivals the shift. I hated that rule. I think we allow teams and players to figure it out. It always has been that way, and it should be that way. But being able to see the athleticism with these guys is remarkable. Since they're playing in the regular position, and the numbers that some of these guys are putting up with their defensive war and whatnot is remarkable too.
The Fort, Michael Mckenry has been our guest, Major League Baseball analyst. Also does great work with the Pittsburgh Pirates and more. Follow him on social at The Fort McHenry. Michael, thank you so much, man. We'll catch up.
Appreciate you guys. See you soon.
Have a great week.
Thanks, bud.
Michael Mckenry. Great insight there. Nick Saban's teeing off on the state of college football right now at SEC spring meetings. We're going to hit that coming up in about 15 minutes, recap it. Eli Drinkwitz has said a lot already today down in Destin, too.
He has the quote of the meeting so far. Old Eli.
Yes.
I think.
Yeah. He left
someone else. Lane Kiffin hasn't really spoken yet, so he's going to throw his hat in the ring at some point. But right now, it's all Eli.
Saban currently saying, is this what we want college football to become? As he took the podium at SEC spring meetings. Hey, you can go check out the new Kurt Schilling baseball show right now. It drops every Tuesday and Friday at OutKick.com. And Schilling will be back with us coming up soon, as well as great insight with Michael Mckenry every other week. The beef between Pippen and MJ continues. We'll try to dissect what Scotty was trying to say when he said that Michael Jordan was a horrible player. That's next on Hot Mic.
Primary complaint is when you let somebody cross the street while you're driving and they purposely take their time when they see that they are waiting for you crossing the street. That is my primary complaint, and it drives me crazy.
My primary complaint is people who talk on speakerphone in public.
People that chew too loud.
Number one pet peeve,
telemarketers. Number 2 pet peeve, when people don't understand the menu that they're serving. Number 3 pet peeve, when people ask for change but they have no quarters. Number 4 pet peeve, parallel parking.
My primary complaint is I can't just go to a bar and have a nice quiet beer. There's all this live music every freaking where. Like, I'm just trying to go to a bar, relax, have a beer, watch the game, but no, we gotta have these guitar players and these bands. Why can't I just hang out and just relax, have a beer, and watch the Memphis Grizzlies? I mean, is that too much to ask?
I do not appreciate or condone anybody that litters. I think you gotta keep your planet clean. It's turning your nose up to everybody that has to clean your up with littering.
My primary complaint would be wobbly tables at restaurants.
Another pet peeve I have is no courtesy flushing. No one believes in that. I believe in it. Thank you. Another pet peeve I have is when people have AirPods in. Excuse me. Another pet peeve I have is when people have AirPods in and they're singing louder so everyone can hear what they're not supposed to listen to.
When people eat smelly food on the airplane.
Dishes left in the sink.
My primary complaint is when I'm out to eat with somebody and they bite their fork as they are putting the fork in their mouth to eat.
When people bite their fork and scrape that, and when they're eating dinner, you can hear like it's like nails on a chalkboard. Hell no.
My primary complaint is when people complain about me when I bite my fork.
Those folks who are in the airport talking on their cell phone very loud so everybody else can hear what they're saying even though we really don't care.
My primary complaint are drivers who do not stop on a pedestrian crosswalk. Period.
My last pet peeve is that when people text you, they text you that they're busy, or if you call them, they answer and say they can't talk. Either way, just don't respond. You can't text me, don't text me back. And if you can't answer the phone, don't answer the phone to tell me you can't talk.
So if you've wondered, hey, I wonder if there's beef between Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen. Yes.
Yep.
And it's more than just The Last Dance where it was evident. But it's even evident recently in a podcast. It's the Stacey King Hot Sauce podcast. And he's being asked about the greatest of all time and where he would rank Jordan. I'm sure he's asked about other things. But here is Scottie Pippen on the Gimme Hot Sauce podcast and discussing Michael Jordan's career and where he would rank him.
LeBron will be the greatest statistical guy to ever play the game of basketball. And there's no comparison to him. None. So, does that make him the greatest player to ever play the game? I'll leave that out for debating because I don't believe that there's a great player because our game is a team game and one player can't do it. Like, I seen Michael Jordan play before I came to play with the Bulls. You guys seen him play. He's a horrible player. He was horrible to play with. He was all one-on-one. He's shooting bad shots. And all of a sudden, we become a team and we start winning. Everybody forgot who he was.
Everyone learned who he was. It's a horrible player.
Really poor choice of words.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out
what he's trying to get to is understandable in that Jordan was averaging over 31 a game and had not gotten out of the first round of the playoffs because he was a one-man show.
Yeah.
But to call him a horrible player and that, great players don't exist because it's a team game. I mean, Scottie didn't go on to win titles when Jordan went and played baseball.
No, but Phil Jackson sides a lot of what Pippen said. He was asked about Phil Jackson was asked recently about the most complete player. And I think there may have been discussing Jokic and others, and he mentioned Scottie based on all facets of the game. And that made me think maybe Phil Jackson would side with Scottie on the discussion that he starts with, which is LeBron. This is the LeBron greatest player of all time debate. But horrible player for Jordan is just missing the point.
He was, though. You're right, Hutton. But so Scottie's right in that when he got there, we're talking late 80s right now, when Jordan was starting out, he was the NBA Rookie of the Year. He was a scoring phenom. He was a highlight reel all the time. He sucked on defense. He wasn't a great passer. He was a terrible outside shot. He was a lot of things. But what was great about Jordan was he got better at all those things. He was a NBA Defensive Player of the Year. He was NBA All-Defensive Team, which people said he would never be able to do. So he got better at those things. So Scottie's not wrong.
It was around
the time. Yeah. Well, not as good as his the attendant in the locker room, but almost. Scottie's not wrong in that it was around the time he got there and the Bulls started building that Jordan got better at outside shooting. Jordan became a better defender. His understanding of the game became better, and they became a better team in large part because of Scottie Pippen. But horrible player? No. No one ever said Michael Jordan was a horrible player going back to his days at North Carolina. He was always a great player.
We know about Scottie Pippen because of MJ.
He's a different type of player.
To end it like the way Scottie did.
They both helped each other a lot.
Of course.
That's the one unfortunate part about it, and I love the drama, but the unfortunate byproduct of The Last Dance is it did not depict Scottie Pippen in a great light, and Scottie's very hurt by that, and he's speaking through his hurt. This is like when someone says, go tweet about it. When you tweet through your pain, Scottie is talking through his pain based off that documentary and the fact that Jordan's son is with his ex-wife and mother of his 4 kids. Those two things are combining to make Scottie very, very bitter. And they're both understandable.
But also, it was bitter before news got out about Jordan Jr. and and the wife.
It's bitter because of that documentary.
Yeah.
He was tweeting through it during the airing of the documentary during COVID when that was happening. He was going every
it was
episode.
A long 10 hours for Scottie.
Yes. It was like a torture operation for Scottie Pippen to sit through all 10 hours of that documentary.
Meanwhile, Rodman loved it.
Oh, yeah.
Carmen Electra answering the door. Jordan's trying to wake up Rodman.
Rodman just said, yeah, that's true. Yeah, that happened.
That happened.
All of it true.
Coming up, Sam Ponder under attack for standing up for women's sports. That's next on Hot Mic.
What you're experiencing is the bold taste of a Southern legend. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, authentic Tennessee mountain-style spirits. We believe in crafting flavors that were born from tradition but defy expectation, and pioneering a new experience with every sip. Because if it doesn't do this, it ain't this. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Come on.
Welcome into OutKick the show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader. I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life. ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate.
We live in the land of participation trophies.
You gotta lean into the turns. You really gotta lean into the turns.
When Leah Thomas walked in that first day, it got silent, and every girl was uncomfortable.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the #1 overall pick.
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna live. Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown. People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose.
The scary thing, Tommy, is in the history of this government, I've never seen them give anything back that they've taken.
Oh no, they never do.
And they won't.
We've seen coaches throw water bottles. We've seen coaches act like idiots. We've seen coaches slap other coaches. But I think if you're involved in carjacking, you're inherently a rotten human being. The level of stupid that sometimes gets on our YouTube chat just gives me a headache. You're born a male, play with males. You're born a female, play with females. Don't at me about it, people.
I believe this person is the greatest player anybody alive will ever see. How can you hate Derek Jeter? A guy's on-base percentage tells me his batting eye, and a guy's slugging percentage tells me if he's a threat. That's the kind of guy that throws a no-hitter, that effectively wild guy.
Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, a bold taste of a Southern legend.
Just like that, the second hour is here for Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow across the OutKick network. Glad you're with us. Hope you'll subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're watching. Hope you'll continue to use this radio station as a preset if you're listening on this great radio partner of ours across the OutKick platform. Chad show's flying by. Got Mintzy coming up. Ben Mintz, formerly of Barstool and Wake Up Mintzy. He'll join us in about an hour and 15 minutes from now. Should be a great conversation.
It's only going to go faster, Hutton. It's flying by already. It's only going to get faster from here on out.
Nancy Armour had another column where she's, triggered about something, and in general, she's writing a column at USA Today about those that are anti-biological men competing against biological women. And then the target turns into Sam Ponder, who's been outspoken, as has Sage Steele, as has Riley Gaines, Martina Navratilova, and others. And while Armour doesn't defend the idea of biological men competing and winning against biological women, winning championships at that, winning a spot on a podium over a female, she then rips Ponder, instead of defending her stance, rips Ponder for bigotry, rips a woman for standing up for women's rights, is the best way to describe what Nancy is doing in this recent column. And it's par for the course. She tweeted out that if ESPN Sam Ponder was truly concerned about women's sports, she's had ample opportunity in the last year to call out the inequities that actually do exist. She hasn't. This isn't about fairness. It's about her bigotry. And many are coming to Sam Ponder's defense, including Sage Steele and others. Sage mentions that it's a lonely battle. I don't find it lonely at all. In fact, I think the vast majority of those that hear of this topic and discussion side with what we've said and what Riley Gaines stands for and what, quote unquote, the science stands for. That biological men should not be competing against biological women. And it continues to happen, and it continues to not really be defended, but propped up as an argument for clicks by people like Nancy.
And Sarah Spain, who's an ESPN employee, last I checked, liked a tweet calling Sam Ponder a bigot and then deleted that like at some point, apparently. And when asked for comment from OutKick, ESPN has not replied to that about what happened when you're attacking one of your coworkers. Something else that Nancy Armour, I guess it is, writes, quote, "Don't be fooled by the people who screech about fairness to cloak their bigotry towards transgender girls and women, the transgender girls and women who have the audacity to want to play sports in particular. No one is trying to stop transgender girls and women from playing sports. They're not at all. You got to play sports where you're biologically set to play sports in. That's the argument from pretty much everyone in America. There's not, Hutton mentioned this, but there's not a lot of explanation as to how this is fair. Leah Thomas, what happened there, how that's fair. I don't see a lot of explanation from Nancy. It's just an attack on Sam Ponder because how dare Sam Ponder take up this fight and this argument and not go after these other issues with women's sports. Some of which she brings up are fair points about women's sports being at a disadvantage overall. And Nancy has a problem with Sam Ponder caring about this issue and not speaking out against the other ones without offering a solution to this issue or even saying that Sam Ponder's really wrong, just hinting at Sam Ponder's bigotry being at play. This is all a cloak for bigotry. No, it's not. You can't try to get into the intention of what someone is saying. You have to weigh the merits of what they're saying. What Sam Ponder's saying, what I'm saying, what Hutton's saying, what virtually all of America is saying is that it is unfair for biological males to move over from men's or boys' sports and go into women's and girls' sports and start winning trophies in those sports. It's a very cut and dry argument. It does threaten women's and girls' sports if this continues to happen. And guess what's happening? It's continuing to happen, regardless of motivation or intention, regardless of what anyone watching this thinks about my underlying sense of transgender rights or whatever's going on. The fact of the matter remains is it's unfair. And what Sam Ponder is saying is a fact. It's not opinion. It's fact. It's unfair. So I don't give a damn what Nancy Armour thinks about Sam Ponder's beliefs or if she's cloaking her bigotry behind this or whatever she thinks. What is she saying? Tell me where it's wrong. What she's saying is it's unfair, and you didn't tell me where it's wrong. You told me how this is a weapon used to cloak bigotry and I don't care. Tell me what she's saying and where it's wrong. You can't. No one can.
No, they don't go to that extreme.
No one can. It's
not
just,
even the extreme.
How dare you talk about this and not about this?
Argument. They can't make the argument that it's fair.
It's just so tired.
Yeah.
And also to call, what is the line about Riley Gaines? Calls her, what, an anti-trans activist? Riley Gaines is not an anti-trans activist. I've never heard Riley Gaines come on this show or any other one and be anti-trans.
No. And in fact, we've
She's
specifically asked
anti-men
her
competing
that.
against women.
Yeah, which is what we've said. No one is saying stop doing what you're doing or or else. It's stop trying to compete against women and taking titles and chances at a championship, chances to compete and advance to the next round of something. It doesn't have to be for a title. Taking a spot away from a biological female who Riley Gaines tied with.
Yeah.
And they gave the trophy to Leah Thomas. It's not a lonely fight. It's becoming much more public, specifically with ESPN personalities. Sage Steele and Samantha Ponder being the target of those that have tried to defend, can't, so they attack others. Those at ESPN that do that are now having to, like you said, you've got some that are, liking tweets that are going after Ponder?
Yeah, Sarah Spain liked a tweet. I'm going to find the exact tweet she liked, but basically liked a tweet calling Sam Ponder a bigot.
Which was that was the original tease on the tweet for the story from Nancy Armour. It was bigotry.
Well, and she's also, and now we're getting into in her piece, reading it, Nancy gets into Sam Ponder had some, I guess, pro-Donald Trump tweets that she's saying weren't handled the same way as Jamel Hill's anti-Donald Trump tweets. But Jamel Hill was never disciplined for anything with that. She was disciplined because of her stance on the NFL, which is a league partner of ESPN. That was the problem after she was warned about it. It's just all so stupid, right? I mean, let's get to the heart of the issue here and discuss what's really going on.
There's no common sense here.
Yeah, Sarah Spain liked the tweet saying that Sam Ponder engages in bigotry from Nancy Armour. So she liked that tweet that we showed a second ago. That's where it gets into this. ESPN's got a fight on their hands right now with Sage Steele over suing about her First Amendment rights with what she said about their COVID policy and vaccination policy. And this is, I think there was a story I read earlier from Variety that got into this. ESPN is tying themselves into a pretzel right now because they are fighting one lawsuit by claiming we have the right to do this, this, and this with something that we don't approve of or someone speaking out against policy.
Right.
And in the other breath, those same lawyers are suing the state of Florida and Ron DeSantis because you can't stop us in our business because you don't approve of what we say. So they're arguing for Sage Steele, essentially, against the state of Florida in one lawsuit against them, and then arguing against their own stance against the state of Florida when arguing with Sage Steele and being sued for multi-millions of dollars. It's going to be a tough argument on either side. They're not winning both. They may win the fight against the state of Florida, but they're definitely losing the fight against Sage Steele if that happens.
Well, and then also, you got employees upset over the hiring of Pat McAfee. Well, you have 7,000 employees through the company through Disney being let go, being laid off to save over $5 billion on the payroll, on money being spent. This is just the surface level of it because more and more female specific at ESPN are speaking out publicly about it. Those that were privately, Riley Gaines told us, privately saying, hey, thank you for saying this, keep up the good fight, are now publicly tweeting those same comments. And they're taking the same heat that Riley has seen. But the more, again, it's not lonely. It's not a lonely battle. It's the common sense aspect that's being stated that the quiet minority continues to chirp at. But they won't defend their side of the issue. It's the bigotry on the other side that they'll point to or try to point to in this case. Chad, the NBA is assessing their flopping rule where they're going to potentially assess a technical free throw, one free throw, if it is deemed a flop. They're thinking about running this through the Summer League to see how it goes. I have no problem with it. In fact, I also don't hate the fact if they want to take out the offensive foul altogether. But flopping can go on both sides of the floor. And I think it's also an effort to just kind of clean up the sloppiness that some of these regular season games can turn into.
And it's also there's a couple ways to administer this rule. I'm fascinated by it because, how do you...
The judgment of it?
Yeah, we can see the easy ones, right? If you review it and you go back and say, okay, that was definitely a flop or that was definitely exaggeration or whatever it may be, and you could assess a technical foul with that. But what if you gave the coach the option or the player the option? And what I mean by that is this. We're facing a similar rule in college football where there's a problem with teams faking injuries to slow down the offense.
Right.
So I've always said, that's fine if you want to do that, but they got to sit out the rest of that series. If a player is injured and the game is stopped, they have to sit out a play or two, whatever it is. Whatever rule you want to put on, they got to come out for 2 plays, then they can re-enter the game. That might slow down people faking injuries because they don't want their starting players to be exiting the game. What if a player flopped and an opposing coach challenged it and said, we're going to challenge that for a flop and a technical, and they said, you either get the technical or we don't review it and you can sit out for 5 minutes. You just got injured. If you're going to hit the deck that hard, you must be hurt. So now you have to exit the game for 5 minutes, almost a penalty box. Go sit over there. You hit the floor. We call the offensive foul. But because of that, because they challenged it, we can either go through with the review, but if you think you may have flopped, you can take the automatic 5-minute assessment or we'll review it for a technical foul.
Yeah.
I love anything involving strategy, and I like that added element to it where we could just stop. It's almost like telling a runner, go ahead and take first instead of throwing the automatic walk. You can go to the coach, say, we're going to review, they want to review this for flopping, and you could just say, just the foul stands, he sits for 5 minutes because he's hurt on that foul. Or go ahead and review it, we think he was actually fouled, and we'll see what happens. Maybe that's making it too complicated for people, but I do like the coaching strategy part of it if you get called out for flopping.
I think that there should be a bigger penalty if you get called out for it. I think the ref should just be able to know if there's an exaggeration or not. I don't think the refs can in real time. Oh, but
this rule though is going to be in place because the refs screw this up all the time. They're calling offensive fouls for flopping. And they're calling the foul, so the only way to do it is to have a check and balance of, you fooled me.
LeBron's going to be called out for this.
They're trying to stop them from fooling the ref. That's the issue, is the ref is getting fooled by the player because of the flop. So you're going to have a review process to cut that out.
I'm eager to see how they try to police this during the summer league. And a lot of it was, Dylan Brooks and LeBron and some of the exaggerations that were going on, right? But in some cases, it's a legit contact that where we saw legitimate players, Ja Morant, Giannis, get hurt on taking offensive fouls that were not flops, just hard plays. So there is a checks and balance, Chad, to it, but they've got to get the number down on the obvious ones. If you have a couple of guys that hit the deck, whatever, but it's just a routine play now that they need to remove from the game. NBA ref, Eric Lewis is his name, 19-year vet, removed from his burner account. It was deleted. Pretty obvious that it's Eric Lewis who had a burner account on Twitter because he followed 5 people, including the George Mason Women's Hoops program, because his wife is the head coach for George Mason's women's basketball program. He followed the NBA, the NBA PA, and a couple of others. But all he really did on this burner was go after those that were attacking him, ripping him for being a bad official, or others on his crew or around the league. And it was so obvious that he gets called out for it and ends up deleting the account. But those tweets last forever. And Eric Lewis had a burner to defend himself and others because officials nowadays can't do that publicly.
Do you think Eric Lewis, because he's getting berated by fans and everyone online as an NBA official, he was in therapy and his therapist said, here's an exercise you can do. Create a fake account, and to exact some revenge, you can utilize the fake account and go after the haters, and that'll cleanse you of that anger and make you feel better about yourself, and then you can go about your day. Because the only reason you do this is to just feel better about yourself.
Or try to.
It's not doing anything. You have no followers, right? It's not like
No
you're
followers.
utilizing some massive account to shame someone. You're just saying exactly what you want to the people criticizing you because the league won't allow you to say it publicly.
Yeah, they don't give you a voice.
You can't speak. You have no voice. So now I have a fake account, and I can voice my displeasure with the people coming after me and my job. But all it does is make Eric Lewis feel better. It really doesn't even do anything bad to the person that's receiving the tweet. I don't get how it's that huge of a deal for the NBA. It's just funny to me.
Well, it just made
but
it
all
obvious.
it does is make Eric Lewis feel better.
It made him feel better, but he made it so obvious because all he did was tweet about this. No followers, but followed his wife's women's basketball program.
I love it.
Along with the league.
You go, Eric.
Yeah, well, Eric,
You tell those
as
haters.
a
I hope you felt
19-year
better.
NBA vet, when you see him, you've seen him ref games. Yeah, I wish the officials had more of a voice than what we're given on all of these platforms, on all of the major leagues across the country.
Eric took his voice back, and I respect him for it.
Yes.
I want the league to pardon
Now
him.
just do it through your Twitter account.
I want a full pardon for Eric Lewis. That's what I want. No problems, no stipulations, no punishment, nothing. I just want him to continue using that burner account to set the haters straight. That's what I want for Eric.
Saban has spoken at SEC spring meetings, which kicked off down in Florida. Trey Wallace is covering that for OutKick.com. We're going to dive into a story he's just posted about Saban and the current landscape of college athletics, specifically football. And Eli Drinkwitz has been very vocal about NIL and much more. We'll hit that, plus the big debate of 8 games or 9 games for the SEC regular season slates. That's next, right here on Hot Mic.
What you're experiencing is the bold taste of a Southern legend. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, authentic Tennessee mountain-style spirits. We believe in crafting flavors that were born from tradition but defy expectation, and pioneering a new experience with every sip. Because if it doesn't do this, it ain't this. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Come on.
Welcome into OutKick the show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader. I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life. ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate.
We live in a land of participation trophies.
You gotta lean into the turns. You really gotta lean into the turns.
When Leah Thomas walked in that first day, it got silent, and every girl was uncomfortable.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the #1 overall pick.
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna lib. Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown. People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose.
The scary thing, Tommy, is in the history of this government, I've never seen them give anything back that they've taken.
Oh no, they never do.
And they won't.
We've seen coaches throw water bottles. We've seen coaches act like idiots. We've seen coaches slap other coaches. But I think if you're involved in carjacking, you're inherently a rotten human being. The level of stupid that sometimes gets on our YouTube chat just gives me a headache. You're born a male, play with males. You're born a female, play with females. Don't at me about it, people.
I believe this person is the greatest player anybody alive will ever see. How can you hate Derek Jeter? A guy's on-base percentage tells me his batting eye, and a guy's slugging percentage tells me if he's a threat. That's the kind of guy that throws a no-hitter, that effectively wild guy.
Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. A bold taste of a Southern legend.
Glad you're with us. Hope everyone had a great Memorial Day weekend. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Search out OutKick. You can see all the great content there. OutKick.com as well. Chad, you were up in the Smokies this past week, and you got to see our great friends at Old Smoky Moonshine and their great facility at Pigeon Forge.
I did. I went to check out the island, which is a nice attraction area, sort of a theme park in the middle of Pigeon Forge. And Old Smoky has a venue location right in the middle of the island. And walked in, and big thanks to Adam here, who we work with, but also Mary and Casey for offering up that moonshine tasting, which, let me tell you, after a day and a half at a water park with 2 kids under the age of 9, that moonshine tasting was much needed at that point in time. So my wife thanks you. I thank you. Thank you very much to Old Smoky and Yeehaw Beer, great partner of ours, and they were a terrific partner on Saturday night.
And continue to be here as well. If you're ever in the Nashville area, swing by 6th and Peabody with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine.
And their venue in Pigeon Forge is really cool.
It's legit,
great location,
legit.
Really nice. They got one in Gatlinburg too.
Always a great venue for any of the spring meetings for the major conferences. And that's, of course, at the very top for the SEC, down in 30A in the Destin, Florida area, Chad. Plenty of news and headlines will be coming out throughout the week. Nick Saban is back on his platform that he was on, quite frankly, last year, discussing name, image, likeness, and not the fact that players or college athletes are able to make money. But now, the discussion about, are we headed towards a player union? Are we headed down a path of pay for play based on state laws and what is being proposed or thrown out there as what could be on the horizon? And he's pointing out taxes, he's pointing out unions, and you're getting to a point where you're comparing yourself to the NFL. And Saban has mentioned today the NFL has a salary cap that makes things an even playing field. And in college football, it already was not an even playing field. And an uncapped ability of pay for play and an open portal, those two things combined make it a race every offseason to see who can become part of the haves and who remains part of the have-nots. Saban's going to be a part of the haves. regardless of what happens. Whatever rule is there, whatever guidelines are there, if there's a cap, if there's not a cap, he's going to be fine. His program will be fine. But he's not wrong in describing where we are in the landscape of college football specifically and where we could be headed if we really start to narrow it down to, okay, are we going to have player representation? Are they employees instead of, students? How are taxes going to be assessed? A lot of moving parts to all of this that he's preaching on today as they open up SEC spring meetings.
Yeah.
And again, it's hard to disagree with them because I come from it doesn't matter what rule is there or not. Bama is going to be Bama. So I can't just fire back and say, oh, of course Saban wants this because he's had it great. Saban will adapt to whatever is there and win because of where he is. But can you do that at South Carolina? Can you be Shane Beamer and work a program up in the horizon that we can see for NIL and with the openness of what could become the Wild Wild West of pay for play?
Saban's not wrong, and not just Saban will be in the haves. Alabama, whoever the coach is, will always be in the haves and not in the have-nots of college football. But he brings up some really good points about the making it professional and the taxes. And I think Nick Saban at one point said, no one liked it when I said this a few years ago, but we offer a lot of services to our players here that not every student is getting. There's tutoring involved. There's life skills being taught. There's a lot of things that now all of a sudden, if they're just an employee of the school, and I think he asked the question, are we going to tax them on the tutoring services that we offer them in order for them to try to go get their degree? Or are we going to tax them on all these other things? Is this really what we want in college football? My answer to that is no.
Yeah.
I've never wanted this. I've never wanted college football to be completely professional. But there's a lot of people that are out there saying, well, okay, coach, would you just prefer it all to go back into the dark of night in terms of how players got paid? Because this has been going on for generations where players are getting paid one way or the other to go to a school and not go to another school. And I acknowledge that too. And my answer to that is sort of, yeah. I didn't mind it when there was a black market for these things. I kind of liked it better than it being out in the open and knowing how much of an NIL deal someone signed for and knowing everything else going on.
The portal. The portal's where it really changed.
The portal's changing it, yes.
It's not that it's on the open. It's that you can do it every year, right? Like you can change your circumstance every year. You can poach and recruit and dive in and offer more based on which booster is ready to pony up. And the other area that it's really it's not the top tier. Though, like I totally agree. This has been going on for a long time with the top tier platform of players. But now you've got entire offensive lines getting paid something. And that's where it's really changed. It's not I don't think it's the upper crust that I'm referring to when I say it's a lot different than it was. I think it's more or less the nucleus of a roster that's now getting something other than what they're getting through what was the quote-unquote student-athlete scholarship fund. That's really where it's different to me because I don't think those guys are getting paid to join a roster in order to be the starting right guard on a football team.
No, but also where Nick Saban's going to get laughed at here, and people are right to laugh at him, is to not act like anything at Alabama is fair and equitable, as opposed to Northwestern or Iowa State or Ole Miss, or go on down the list of lesser programs than Alabama. That is the nature of college sports. I don't necessarily want to see that change. But when Saban starts talking about in the NFL, they have a salary cap. They have things to make it fair. Okay, I'm all for that. I love the NFL system. It is designed for everyone to go 500, and the smarter teams that draft better and do things better, they're going to be the ones that win in college football, because that would also require college football programs drafting kids out of high school. There's just no way to make it fair. The NFL's fair because there's a draft. College football, you're still going to go recruit the best players if you're at Alabama. You're going to get better players than you're going to get at Illinois because players are going to want to come play at Alabama before Illinois.
But here's the thing.
Even if all money are equal, the top programs will still prosper.
No, but here's the thing. Mississippi State was once number one in the country. Ole Miss ended up with some great football players. And it wasn't, oh, look at how they're competing against Bama's. Why did those players not go to Alabama or Georgia or Florida? They've got to be cheating in Oxford.
And this is, again,
it's
why
it's immediate accusation.
It's pointless
if it's
to
not
talk about it ever being fair.
That's right.
Because even if Saban gets his way, let's say we come up with a system, everyone gets X amount of NIL money, Saban and Alabama still win. Because now that the only way, I'm not saying this is a blanket truth, but it's probably true with some players. The only way that Mississippi State or Ole Miss in the same conference, in the same division as Alabama, is going to get certain players over Alabama or LSU or Texas or name these schools is by paying them more. I'll say the same about my alma mater. The only way certain kids are going to go to Tennessee over Georgia or Alabama right now is if Tennessee pays them a little bit more money. So let's go with what Nick Saban is saying. Some people are paying more than others. Great. Let's eliminate that. Everyone pays the same. It's going to reset back to the powers that be in college football the way it is right now. And those programs are still going to get the best guys. If you put the recruiting model in the NFL right now, and you said it's the same as college, no draft, teams, get to work on recruiting your college football players. You want to come play for your programs. Who's going to win? Who's going to win? It's going to be the ones with the best infrastructure, the best facilities, in the best city. Sort of like what we see right now in college football. Best tradition, best facilities, best chance to better themselves professionally within football. That's where kids are going, and you just add the money element to it. It's just never I say all this to say, Hutton, it's never going to be perfectly a square deal for everyone in college football. That's not what this sport is. If you want that, go to the NFL and be an NFL fan. Or it's never going to be completely fair for everyone in college sports, ever.
It won't be that way until the Power Two break off and form their own rules and commission. They come up with their own structure.
But even then, they'd have to implement a draft.
Well, but if they want to implement their own policies and police name, image, likeness, and everything with a cap and a floor and whatever, that's a much more even playing field than what you have right now, where, I mean, based on the current structure, yes, and a much broader scale look at things, the 30,000-foot view look, it's going to end up being SEC and Big Ten still. That's what the debate about the grant of rights is over right now.
Yep.
That's what the ACC's arguing. ACC, regardless of how good they are, Clemson could be great, but on average, it's going to be the Big Ten and the SEC that are going to be the front runners, with everyone else trying to get a piece of the big pie, but not really getting the fair shot based on the money that's coming into those conferences.
Allie in the YouTube chat says Saban would love for things to be under the table again. And I say Saban would love it either way. Salary cap or under the table again, because a salary cap still benefits Alabama because it's Alabama and because it's Nick Saban. So if all things are equal, he feels like I'm still going to get a bulk of the best players in the country.
Yes.
If everything's equal. What Nick Saban is decrying, if we're looking at this from a personal sense, and I think overall he is right. I will say his overall premise is when he asked the question, is this really what we want college sports to be? My answer is no. I don't think many people want it to be what it's becoming. But if you want to look at it personally, what Nick Saban hates is that Texas A&M can go out and outbid, like he talked about a year ago, or that maybe Tennessee or Georgia has outbid him for someone. That's what he hates. The public knowledge of that.
Well,
that he lost a guy because he thinks it was purely about money, and he feels like if it were truly about sport and about the best program and about chances to improve to go to the NFL, well, that player surely would have picked me over that other guy, but I got hosed because of a paycheck. That's what he hates.
Yeah.
That's the personal part of Nick Saban coming out.
Eli Drinkwitz is also discussing bigger topics at the SEC spring meetings. He's discussing NIL and the 8 or 9 game schedule. He's like, we can plan world change on a grand scale with the greatest military minds on the planet, but we can't get into a room and decide if we want to play 8 or 9 games. That was one. And then he also says that college players through name, image, likeness are making more money than his brother-in-law, who is a pediatrician. Quote, he saves lives, end quote. That at Miramar today for the SEC. It's funny I'll also point out, Eli, that you make $6 million a year as a head football coach, more than the pediatrician. So, I mean, again, say one thing, but look at the $2 million raise you got to be the head coach at Missouri and go 500.
That would be the perfectly well said, Hutton. Also, if that was a follow-up question, hey, have you saved any lives? Because you're making this much more than your pediatrician brother. How is that fair? Yeah, I mean, this is more about power. It's a funny line. It's also more about power dynamic, and this is what really, I think, irks people, is this sounds like the millionaire guy who's now mad that one of his players might be making six figures.
Yeah.
The anger about that. I mean, how can this kid actually have actual money when I was in college, I didn't have any money, and I had to make my money later in life? That sounds like old man screaming, "Get off my lawn."
He's also in a state that's
from Eli.
The state law is going to set up in his favor for in-state recruits to get pay for play and to get NIL in high school as long as you stay in state and go to college in state.
Yeah, he should be all for it. Nick Saban has to hate Eli right now because of that law in the state of Missouri.
I like the honesty and the brash approach to what he's saying, but at the same time, man, like, look in the mirror. You're getting $6 million a year, and, I mean, you got it easy. You're not facing the pressure of
saving a child.
Of being a pediatrician.
Well, he's not acknowledging the truth about entertainment and sport.
Yes.
That we can go down the list of this civil engineer's job that's working for the state or the government, that's building that bridge in that city, is way more important than this kid playing outside linebacker in college football in terms of what their job really is. But how does this guy make that much more money? This guy that's going to star in TV shows and movies to entertain us, that's making millions and has become a billionaire over the years. Their job is far less important than the person that's the head of the public school system in some major city. I mean, we could go through this. It's not fair, but it's about market and how much money's being generated. Same goes for Eli. He benefits from that system. He benefits from that free market. So spare me.
But if
my brother saves lives and this kid doesn't.
If he doesn't benefit, though, it's on him and he loses his gig. He's got to benefit.
So let's get into losing the gig.
Based on the way it's set up.
The first thing that you brought up about the schedule, and I want to tie this into losing your gig.
Okay.
If I'm an SEC coach, and I'm Eli Drinkwitz, let's say, at Missouri, or I'm, name the coach, Mark Stoops at Kentucky, or I'm Clark Lee at Vanderbilt.
Pittman.
And I'm looking around and I'm saying, okay, you want us to go to 9 SEC games. And you want us to do that even when ESPN is saying, we are laying people off left and right, and we're not going to give you more money right now. You've got the contract is the contract. Do whatever you want. Great for us if you decide to go to 9 games. Only helps our partnership, and we'll talk about it the next contract, but you're not getting any more money for it. If I am one of those coaches, I am standing on the table and screaming, why would I want to go play a 9th SEC game when I can show you my contract right now? This is a piece of paper, not my contract. But he's going to present a contract and say, it says I get X amount more money if I win 7 or 8 games, or if I get to a bowl game. How on earth does it benefit me or my school or my program to go play an extra SEC game that, oh, by the way, we very well may lose when I can go schedule another win? Now, this is being very selfish of me if I'm the coach. But if I'm tied into a contract that's all about accumulating wins and having a better win-loss record, I'm not compelled to do anything until the SEC and Greg Sankey come in and say, guess what? The check is going to be X amount more now for that 9th game, starting now. Starting now, we're going to play the 9th game, and you're going to make X amount more. If the money's equal to all the programs, I can fully understand the coaches saying, I'm not into it. I'd rather play a homecoming game against directional school Tech A&M instead of play another SEC game and get that extra win.
But
it's not what's best for the sport, and it's not what's best for the SEC. But I'm talking about what's best for the individual coach right now.
Just maintain your
and
gig.
That's what they're going to argue because they're being selfish. And I can understand that selfishness.
But the opposing argument doesn't have to be about ESPN and the contract. It could be just Nick Saban has been the face of college athletic coaching and he's been vocal and has wanted 9 games for years. Had nothing to do with the new TV contract. But he's not like.
But again, if I'm one of the coaches,
if you have 7 wins at Kentucky, you get another year tacked on, and I'm thinking, okay, but you're also arguing whether or not you're a football or basketball school.
Well, the only person that can even claim the power of Nick Saban right now, this second, is Kirby Smart.
Right.
At Georgia. So again, if I'm one of the other 12 coaches, I'm like, great. Nick Saban is never going to get fired and has already won multiple national championships. I'm trying to win one, and I'm trying to get to a point where I'm not going to get fired.
It's because of the perception of Saban and of Kirby Smart that they're propped up whenever they win 6 games, right? And that part of that 6 is the schedule that they're already currently playing. But it's also going to be propped up whenever they expand the playoff, which is also going to bring in more revenue, and it's also going to give you a better chance of actually getting into a 12-team playoff based on the final rankings if you play a tougher schedule. I would also factor that in. That extra loss isn't going to hurt you if the extra loss is to Alabama or Georgia, because they wouldn't normally be on your schedule. Now, if you're going to lose to a team that is among the hypothetical coach that we're discussing, like Vandy or Kentucky or Missouri, South Carolina, insert school here, the group of 7 or however many we want to point to, then yeah, but you're always going to be scrutinized for losing at that caliber. And you're probably on the verge of losing your job if you're losing at that caliber. Just ask a Florida coach.
If it's all about the money, though, I can understand the coach is saying, let's see the money, and then we'll do it. I'm not in a big rush if I'm the bottom half of the league to do this. Now, if I'm the top half where I'm secure in my job, sure.
But they're
let's
already,
bring on the bigger games. And because right now I think only the top half of the league is legitimately saying we have a chance to compete for a college football national championship.
But they've already seen the money, though. They're getting $60 million on average for the TV deal. What was the TV deal for CBS and just the 230 slot? It was the cushiest contract going in the SEC. Well, again, in sports, period, for the ratings they were pulling in. So I would say ESPN's already shown you the money. And if you want it to be on the Big Ten's side of things, why don't we see what actually that deal looks like before we criticize where we are compared to where the Big Ten is?
And start when they start paying that money, when this contract's up. If ESPN's not going to renegotiate right now, which they're not, I don't think, they're going to say, if you want to do 9, great, go at it, but we're not giving you any more money until this contract's up. I think if it's all about the money, then don't start it until the money's going to change because you're negotiating 9 games within the next contract. That's where I think some coaches may fall. Why change what we think is okay right now? And then we'll go with the 9-game format when we're going to get more money for it. And or you can show me where playing 9 SEC games is somehow going to get 6 SEC teams into a field of 12 for a college football playoff. And then that's going to lead to more money for my program that has no chance of playing in the playoff.
So the perfect example of that would be Kentucky when they finished, second in the East? Was it 2 years ago? 3 years ago now?
Yeah.
Whenever it was. They would have been in the college football
2
playoff
years ago
that year. They didn't go to the SEC championship game, but they would have gone to the college football playoff based on where they finished. And losing an extra SEC game would not have, I don't think, would have hurt them if it's one of the top teams. Losing a current bottom half of the league team in the SEC would hurt you. But a lot of those teams are a part of that group. You're playing that gauntlet anyway. And then ask A&M if it hurts to lose to Appalachian State. Yes, it does.
A&M would have loved to have had an extra league game put on the losers total
and then
at the end of the year.
Then the playoff game you're potentially hosting. You're potentially getting another win in the playoff. It's another opportunity to get to your win total. Like to me, it's not just tied to the
I want to see it because it's better
contract.
for the sport overall and better for the league and gives you more compelling weekends. I'm just presenting the argument of if I'm one of the coaches, I could see them saying they can't come up with a solution because plenty of coaches probably saying, okay, show me that next TV contract, then we'll do it.
Yeah.
If they're not going to give us more money now, we like it the way it is. We like that clause in my contract that says bowl eligible and I get $500K extra at the end of the year. They love that.
I'm guessing the college basketball coaches didn't like it 6 years ago when Sankey walked in and said, hey, get to it, shape up.
Well, he
improve your
said
sports.
He said that to the ADs, and they went out and
Schedule
fired
better.
their current coaches and hired a bunch
Schedule
of
better.
that's better at it.
Yeah, and the league as a group really, I mean, they took over. They're right there now for college hoops.
But the difference is the SEC has never been a laughingstock in football.
No, and they won't be either way.
They don't have to threaten them the way that when the basketball programs produce 3 or 4 teams in the tournament. That was an embarrassment.
A collegiate golfer had to withdraw for a awful injury on the course. That's next on Hot Mic.
So Jake Bird is a reliever for one of the worst teams in baseball, the Colorado Rockies, who are just horrible. And apparently this middle reliever who was called up for called up to the big leagues for the first time this year. So he's toiled and worked his butt off. Decided he was going to pull a little old school, going to date myself, Al Hrabosky, and challenge and act like an idiot on the mound because he got an out. He did that against the Phillies. And in doing so, Bryce Harper took exception and went basically to the Rockies bench and said, let's fight. And I love it. I think it's awesome. I love, I don't know. I just love stuff because in baseball, there's a lot of fake tough guys. There's a lot of fake tough guys who talk the game, and then there's the tough guys are actually the guys that don't talk tough for the most part, like Pedro Martinez or Nolan Ryan. Nolan Ryan never said anything. He just threw 107 and put it in your ribcage if he didn't like you. Pedro would knock you on your ass at the drop of a dime. But I love that. I love guys like that. I love guys that are real and authentic. And Bryce is clearly a leader. And I since the day I met him I think I met him when he was like 12. It seems like his first year in the big leagues. He's always been a guy who's been vocal, but he plays the game and he's good. And the other stuff is the chromey stuff that's the modern day game and what they love and all the things that go with that. But the guy plays hurt, plays as hard as he can. And I think he gives it everything. And I loved it. I thought it was a great thing. I thought it was a good thing for the Phillies who need a little kick in the ass. And then there was Ben, he got ejected. Bird got ejected. Rockies won the game 4-0 to avoid a sweep. But none of that stuff matters. That's kind of the thing that you, I don't know about rally around, but it just cements a guy's position in the clubhouse. Zach Greinke became just the 5th player in Major League history. And please understand the significance of that. There have been, 100 and probably 40 years of organized professional baseball. When somebody does something that only 4 players have ever done, unique is not really the right word. I don't even know what it is. It's excruciatingly rare. But Greinke struck out his 1,000th different career player. So he struck out, only 5 guys have done this. In the list pretty much makes you understand. Randy Johnson, Roger Clemens, Greg Maddux, and Nolan Ryan are the only other players ever to strike out 1,000 different hitters. Not 1,000 hitters, 1,000 different hitters.
And the only guy on that list that he's similar to is Maddux.
Right. Well, and if you know anything about Zach, he's been Maddux-like since he got to the big leagues.
Right.
And he talked about, I think, his approach. Fascinating story too, by the way. And as a father of someone who raised a kid with Asperger's, meeting a professional athlete with Asperger's it's exactly what you expect. The guy is laser focused beyond belief. And as a parent of an Aspie, I met him. Well, I don't know if met him is the right word, but I ran into him at an event in Arizona, and he was exactly what you'd expect. But a phenomenal career. I think probably a Hall of Fame career too.
Hot Mike with Hunt and Withrow rolls on. 6th and Peabody, our location with E-Hop Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Chad, there are painful injuries on the course. We've seen celebrations on a par 3 hole-in-one, right, where you turn an ankle or whatever. There's
some ruptured Achilles tendons out there.
Sure. There's a collegiate golfer at Oregon, Greg Solhag. He was 2 over through 9, going to 10, or through 10, 2 over through 10. Second round of the national championships. And he had to withdraw because he stepped on a tee while on the tee box. Took a step, stepped on a tee that went through his shoe and into his foot. And I'm thinking like Home Alone style, where you have Marv trying to go up the tarred, the steps of the basement up to the first floor of the house. And he steps on that rusty nail that's through the shingle that's been tarred. And I'm immediately thinking about that and the scream as he falls backwards. And he was like limping. He tried to finish and couldn't finish. And the coach just finally said, hey, man, we're going to have to replace you. But Oregon didn't finish that high for the championships. Well, they're not as they continue, I believe. But the pain of that.
Well, it just.
And I'm thinking, I've never heard of that before.
Well, I just
a
spent
golf
an
tee
entire,
going through a shoe.
As someone who just spent an entire weekend walking around on pavement barefoot at a water park, this really hits close to home. Thinking about stepping through something, because everywhere I was walking, I'm thinking, I better look where I'm going because there could be something tetanusy that I could step on at any point.
A lot of grocery feet out there.
Tons of grocery feet. My youngest daughter included the whole time. I was scrubbing her feet all weekend. I was like, Jesus washing the feet with the hair the entire time with my daughter who had bad grocery
tears.
feet. For those who have never heard of grocery feet, it's that black tarry substance that gets on the bottom of your feet when little, here in the South we call them little redneck kids run around the grocery stores, and they get barefoot and they get the grocery feet. My daughter's had grocery feet all weekend, but this is a terrifying story.
Speaking of water
having
parks,
done that all weekend.
oh yeah, I've never heard of anything like that on the golf course. Also at a water park, you're constantly looking for the wet spot on the concrete or pavement, so that your foot doesn't burn as you go up the steps or towards the next ride.
And you're constantly, for me, yelling at kids to not run because you see people just hitting their head on the pavement because they're sprinting everywhere.
Sounds like hell.
It's one man's hell's another man's heaven. That's all I'll say.
Chad was in heaven in the
That's all
Smokies.
I'll say.
Jimmy G's future, it's up for grabs right now in Las Vegas. We'll discuss.
Primary complaint is when you let somebody cross the street while you're driving and they purposely take their time when they see that they are waiting for you crossing the street. That is my primary complaint, and it drives me crazy.
My primary complaint is people who talk on speakerphone in public.
People that chew too loud.
Number 1 pet peeve, telemarketers. Number 2 pet peeve, when people don't understand the menu that they're serving. Number 3 pet peeve, when people ask for change but they have no quarters. Number 4 pet peeve, parallel parking.
My primary complaint is I can't just go to a bar and have a nice quiet beer. There's all this live music every freaking where. Like, I'm just trying to go to a bar, relax, have a beer, watch the game, but no, we gotta have these guitar players and these bands. Why can't I just hang out and just relax, have a beer, and watch the Memphis Grizzlies? I mean, is that too much to ask?
I do not appreciate or condone anybody that litters. I think you got to keep your planet clean. It's turning your nose up to everybody that has to clean your up with littering.
My primary complaint would be wobbly tables at restaurants.
Another pet peeve I have is no courtesy flushing. No one believes in that. Thank you. Another pet peeve I have is when people have AirPods in. Excuse me. Another pet peeve I have is when people have AirPods in and they're singing louder so everyone can hear what they're not supposed to listen to.
When people eat smelly food on the airplane.
Dishes left in the sink.
My primary complaint is when I'm out to eat with somebody and they bite their fork as they are putting the fork in their mouth to eat.
When people bite their fork and scrape that, and when they're eating dinner, you can hear like it's like nails on a chalkboard. Hell no.
My primary complaint is when people complain about me when I bite my fork.
Those folks who are in the airport talking on their cell phone very loud so everybody else can hear what they're saying, even though we really don't care.
My primary complaint are drivers who do not stop on a pedestrian crosswalk. Period.
My last pet peeve is that when people text you, they text you that they're busy, or if you call them, they answer and say they can't talk. Either way, just don't respond. You can't text me, don't text me back, and if you can't answer the phone, don't answer the phone to tell me you can't talk.
Just like that, the final hour is here. Tuesday edition of Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow across the OutKick network, streaming live on our YouTube page. Search out OutKick. We hope you'll subscribe. You can catch all the great shows and programs and podcasts available there and at OutKick.com. And you can hear us daily starting at 3 o'clock Eastern on this great radio partner. Chad, 6th and Peabody, our location with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. You were in Gatlinburg this weekend. You've had a great
water
Memorial
park
Day weekend. I hope everyone did.
Experience. Yeah, it was the perfect. It very much felt like a Memorial Day weekend in America, being in East Tennessee in the Smoky Mountains, surrounded by who I was surrounded by.
Yeah.
At a water park with families everywhere.
We had a great cookout here.
Nice. The cookout. That's the one thing that I didn't get to experience over the weekend was
grill.
It was more of those where I went to the store and we basically ate in our condo. For the most part, didn't really get out and eat the taste of Americana.
Yeah.
You know, ham sandwiches just don't really get it done sometimes.
You saving it for July 4th?
I was telling you guys during the break, though, there was one water slide. I've never been on one like this. People can chime in on the YouTube chat if you've been on something similar to this. I love water parks.
Me
even
too.
more than your standard theme park. There was one ride that I think they called the Vortex. And you stand on a trap door to start. It's almost like you're in a smaller version of an old telephone booth. They put you in, they shut the door, and then they have a countdown, and they drop you straight down to where you going so fast you go up in a tube. And then you spin around and come out into a landing pool. Never experienced anything like that. Felt like Tom Cruise shooting the next Mission Impossible as I was in this thing. And it went so fast with someone my size that I don't even remember going up. Like by the time I finished it, did I ever go up? Because you're just going so fast when you drop, when the floor falls out below you.
Yeah.
It was
jarring.
quite the experience. There was a dad in front of me in line, and his teenage daughter was going before him. And you could tell, very anxious, and he's reading all the different instructions about the ride. And he said, if you want to save yourself some anxiety, don't read this part here about what to do if you get stuck in the turn as you're going up. Because it involves pushing your arms back on the side and falling straight back, not being able to see what's behind you as you slide backwards in it. And then there's another door they come out and open to let you out of this thing. And I said, thank you for explaining all that to me. Didn't want to think about that at all.
Yeah, that sounds
But I also
terrifying.
felt like I'm pretty sure I'm going to get the velocity needed to get up this hill with no problem.
Have you seen the guys that they act like something's wrong? Like you get in because you mentioned like you've got like a trap door that opens or whatever, right? They act like something's wrong or you're not in it properly, and they go ahead and hit the button right before as you start to panic.
Oh, that's to me that's like you should never. I feel like people at these rides like that you should. It's almost like going to the doctor's office. You got to have good bedside manner when you're working these theme parks because you can tell when there's like a kid, especially who's nervous. My 8-year-old daughter was
I don't think
nervous,
they're doing it to the young
was
kids.
nervous at parts, and I'm like trying to ask questions.
Yeah.
But there are some people who are smart aleck enough that would do things like that.
Yeah.
You cannot do that if someone's really scared. Now, it was funny, the guy who was working this ride, the dad in front of me I wasn't all that nervous about it, but he was almost making me nervous because he was so scared of it. And he was asking, I said, you never see people get stuck, right? Like, never happens. This scenario listed in rule number 7 of this ride never happens. And he kind of goes, oh, no. And he looked at me and winked. He's like, all the time. And nodded to me. He's like, people get stuck. 4 people got stuck after that as I'm watching them in the water park. It's nuts. Great weekend, though. I didn't get stuck.
Same.
Everything was good.
Great weekend for the Raiders. I don't know, probably. They've got Tom Brady as a very small percentage owner in the Las Vegas Raiders. That's yet to be approved by the NFL owners. They need 24 votes of the 32 to approve that. That will be later. That will be an easy approval as long as they can verify that Brady is officially done, that he's retired for good, per reports. Well, that's a topic right now because Jimmy Garoppolo can't pass a physical. He had surgery on his foot. After injuring his foot in December, he had surgery on his foot in March. This is something that the Raiders, they knew he was injured. They wanted him to get this procedure. They signed him and then waived the health clause upon signing. But the caveat to this is if he can't pass a physical and he's not ready for week 1, based on the way the contract reads, per reports, Pro Football Talk and others, they can cut him loose and they don't owe him a dime. Because for his bonus, and that includes the signing bonus, for his bonus to kick in, he's got to not only pass a physical, but get through a game, the first game he starts, without re-injuring that foot, re-aggravating that foot injury. So the question would be, how long do you wait if you're the Raiders, if in fact he hasn't been cleared to play, if your team doctors are saying he's not ready to return, we're failing him on the physical, and you can cut him at no cost to you. How long do you wait to do that, considering the options? The options right now, while it's bad, it could look a lot worse come training camp. You've got Carson Wentz available, Matt Ryan, Teddy Bridgewater. Those are the 3 that come to mind. But you can also trade. But, Chad, he's also Tom Brady. And in Las Vegas, he's the odds-on favorite at the sports books to be the starting quarterback week 1 if Jimmy Garoppolo is not healthy. 2-1, and the odds-on favorite to be the guy. Here's the kicker. He can't be a percentage owner of the Raiders and be the quarterback of said team unless every single owner votes that it's okay for him to do so, which isn't going to happen. Someone's going to vote no.
Someone in the division.
But he needs 24 of the 32 to vote yes on him being a percentage owner. That will happen. He's thought he was retired and came back before. I think this is for good. I really do. But, man, it's intriguing to see the odds in Las Vegas for week 1 and the starting quarterback if Garoppolo is inactive or not on the roster to begin with because he's cut, waived, injured at no cost to the Las Vegas Raiders. But you're not cutting Garoppolo now. I think a lot of the headlines make it seem like they're trying to debate if they're going to cut him now. That's not the case. You keep him around to see if he can pass a physical before the start of the season because you need him. And if not, it just looks awful that they let Derek Carr walk, a healthy Derek Carr, in exchange for Garoppolo that when he's in, he wins, but he's only healthy about 50% of the games.
Well, he wins the 49ers. That's a far different franchise than the Raiders.
But he also won when he was the starter for the Patriots when he had to step in.
Patriots.
When he plays, he wins football games.
I just, again, Patriots, 49ers, so far greater than that Raiders organization. And that's my big question. I don't understand their plan. It's easy to look around the league and say, okay, this team is tanking until they can get their quarterback. This team is trying to develop this rookie or second-year quarterback. The team is trying to hang on with a star quarterback. The Jets just were a quarterback away from being relevant, so they did everything they could to get Aaron Rodgers. And then you have the Raiders, who have let Derek Carr go, done some things to piss off Davante Adams, the point where he is outwardly calling out the organization. And Josh McDaniels comes back in a comment and says, I respect the guy so much, he's earned the right to say what he wants. But he came along as the year went on, and he'll continue to come along. Not a good spot to be in.
No.
And then Jimmy Garoppolo comes in, who's a fine player. He's not bad. But a guy with a foot who may not work, that may not pass a physical, this is your Band-Aid for this year.
And gets hurt a lot.
Not going quarterback with a top 10 pick. I'm having a hard time understanding what their long-term plan is.
McDaniels just went with what he knew. He knows his quarterbacks. He knows the quarterbacks that have played in his system. Garoppolo they've got Brian Hoyer as their backup there. So, I mean, that's the long-time backup in New England.
But it's not, YouTube chat is talking about, are the Raiders tanking for Caleb Williams? They're not tanking.
No.
Jimmy Garoppolo playing is not tanking. Aiden O'Connell playing, who's on their roster, that's tanking. Then I would understand what they're doing. But this goes back to, I can't pinpoint what it is exactly Josh McDaniels wants other than what you're saying, Hutton, familiarity. I'm going to guys that I know, whether that makes sense for the current state of the organization or not, because really what we need is a great quarterback to compete for titles, and that's what we ultimately want. But we don't have that, so we're just got to go the mid route.
And I don't know how,
which is Jimmy Garoppolo.
I don't know how you tank with Davante Adams and Josh Jacobs on your offense.
No, you shouldn't.
I know they traded Darren Waller, but I don't know how.
And I'm not saying they should be tanking. I don't really know what, with Carr not there and now Garoppolo, you basically.
And they drafted the Notre Dame tight end.
You kind of substitute Carr with a more injured version of Carr. Yeah. I think Carr's the better quarterback than Jimmy Garoppolo overall. Garoppolo's won more, but he's been with better organizations.
But what's interesting, so Carr and McDaniels were oil and water. And we know that not just through what has transpired, but also, I mean, the New Orleans Saints brought in John Gruden for a 5-hour meeting with their offensive staff to learn how to get the most out of their new free agent quarterback in Carr. Gruden's been meeting with the Saints over that. I think that's what McDaniels was doing, is bringing in quarterbacks that he knows that can run his system and run it the way he wants it done. But, I mean, it's time for Josh McDaniels to win. He was the most talked about coordinator in the NFL for 10 years after he failed in Denver. And now he gets the money. He chooses the Raiders. The Colts wanted him. He took the gig for a day and then quit. It's time for Josh McDaniels. This is Jimmy G's his guy. So it's either Jimmy G or Brady. And Brady did want to play for the Las Vegas Raiders. Gronk made that very clear in a story he was telling. It's a fascinating storyline.
It's time for Josh McDaniels to win. It's also time for the Raiders organization to come up with a coherent plan. And I don't know what that is right now with Jimmy Garoppolo, who has signed a contract that is null and void if he can't pass a physical, which at this point may be likely, given his injury history.
Maybe so. Chad, the Miami Heat back in the NBA Finals. It's happened a lot since 2006. 2006 was the franchise's first appearance in the NBA Finals. This is their 7th. Isn't that nuts? Crazy. They've been the 7 since 2006. Seen a lot of the Miami Heat. And
Pat Riley, baby.
We haven't seen a lot of 8 seeds do what they're doing. And you're right. Pat Riley with the undrafted players and playoff Jimmy and everything in between. They stepped up yet again in a pressure-packed moment. I don't know if they like being doubted or they like proving doubters wrong or they like being the ultimate underdog, including Spoelstra. But man, did they flourish when you can't do what you do best. And Boston, just when they couldn't hit the three, they lost all but one game when they couldn't hit the three. And Miami took advantage of all of it.
And credit to the Celtics for bouncing back and getting off the mat down 0-3 to make this a series and force a Game 7. But the Miami Heat continue to show what culture can do for you. They talk about Heat culture. To me, that culture is knowing your role. Everyone on that team is completely connected, and they know what their role is, and they don't stray from that on that team. That's why you can have Max Strus be something for your team. That's why Jimmy Butler can go off in these games the way he has also, is because the Miami Heat know exactly who they are, and every member of that team, they know exactly what they need to do to have ultimate success. And that success has led a team that, without Tyler Hero, one of their starters and one of their leading scorers, to the NBA Finals as an 8 seed. Not a great moment for those that are anti-load management in the league, simply because such a low seed has shown they can pull it together and make this run. But I think the Heat are a great example for the rest of the league of how to build an organization and how to go about it with guys who are, a couple stars, but really a bunch of role players that know exactly what to do.
And the Nuggets are a great example of the team aspect, solid throughout their starting group. Coming up, Ben Mintz, Mintzy, formerly of Barstool. Portnoy and Big Cat and others had his back when he made a stupid and honest mistake reading rap lyrics live on the air, and that included a racial slur. Penn Entertainment, they didn't care who had Mintzy's back. They fired him. We'll dive into that, plus find out what he's been up to, and get his thoughts on some SEC headlines as well. Mintzy's next, right here on Hot Mic.
What you're experiencing is the bold taste of a Southern legend. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, authentic Tennessee mountain-style spirits. We believe in crafting flavors that were born from tradition but defy expectation, and pioneering a new experience with every sip. Because if it doesn't do this, it ain't this. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Come on.
Welcome into OutKick the show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader. I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life. ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate.
We live in the land of participation trophies.
You gotta lean into the turns. You really gotta lean into the turns.
When Leah Thomas walked in that first day, it got silent, and every girl was uncomfortable.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the #1 overall pick.
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna live. Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown. People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose.
The scary thing, Tommy, is in the history of this government, I've never seen them give anything back that they've taken.
Oh no, they never do.
And they won't.
We've seen coaches throw water bottles. We've seen coaches act like idiots. We've seen coaches slap other coaches. But I think if you're involved in carjacking, you're inherently a rotten human being. The level of stupid that sometimes gets on our YouTube chat just gives me a headache. You're born a male, play with males. You're born a female, play with females. Don't at me about it, people.
I believe this person is the greatest player anybody alive will ever see. How can you hate Derek Jeter? A guy's on-base percentage tells me his batting eye, and a guy's slugging percentage tells me if he's a threat. That's the kind of guy that throws a no-hitter. that effectively wild guy.
Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. A bold taste of a Southern legend.
Sixth and Peabody, our location, with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Hutton and Withrow with you for Hot Mic across the OutKick network. Pleased to be joined by Ben Mintz, formerly of Wake Up Mincy, formerly of Barstool Sports, who made a stupid, honest mistake, and he's been open and honest about that. I think we're all surprised, based on working for Barstool, that he was fired based on an honest mistake. But he joins us now. Mincy, great to have you on the show, man. Thank you for the time. Hope you had a good Memorial Day weekend.
Oh, yeah. Thank y'all for having me. I really appreciate it. And, yeah, I'm kicking it in Uptown New Orleans, and I see y'all in Nashville, so good to see some Southern representation here.
You had to think you would be suspended at worst, right? And for those that don't know, you said a racial slur while rapping song lyrics to Bone Thugs and Harmony on Wake Up Mincy. And when it happened, Chad and I talked about it on the show. You can tell, you knew, like, whoa, what did I just say? What did I just read? Just based on the honest reaction, the honest mistake, I thought, well, surely it's a suspension at worst coming from Penn Entertainment.
Yeah, I obviously disagree with their decision, but I'm not in a place, when you're talking about Penn, you're dealing with a billion-dollar company and all kinds of gaming regulations and all this stuff. I mean, you saw the fallout. Dave and Big Cat and Erica Nardini all went really hard for me and had my back, which I super appreciate. I still have great relationships with everybody at Barstool. And look, I feel like I'm kind of lucky in that publicly I've gotten the benefit of the doubt here, because anybody that knows me and follows me, I feel like I'm one of the least malicious people you're going to know. And I obviously made a very stupid mistake. You could see me, I was rapping the song, reading off my phone, and I just slipped. And, my face turned white immediately, and I apologized, and I got on Twitter and apologized. And I mean, I kind of near had a panic attack on Monday, but I kind of calmed down Monday afternoon. And as the fallout went by the next day or two, I thought I sent a really formal apology letter to Erica Nardini, our CEO. And she sent back, like, obviously you made a really stupid mistake. Don't ever do it again. And when she said that, I was like, okay, well, I'm probably not getting fired if she said don't ever do it again. And then Wednesday, I got a call from Dave saying, look, we went really hard for you. We don't know what Penn's going to do. And when he said that Wednesday morning, I immediately was like, okay, well, I'm just going to mentally prepare for getting let go, because if Dave's saying that, it's probably not good. And Erica Nardini FaceTimed me literally almost in tears Wednesday afternoon when she told me I was getting let go. And I obviously wasn't thrilled about it. You know, I disagreed with the Penn decision, but life, I'm a big positive energy, positive attitude guy. I'm a life hands you, lemons, make lemonade. And I've kind of had a really awesome last 3 or 4 weeks with Jazz Fest New Orleans. And then I took off on a 20-day road trip through North Carolina and South Carolina and the SEC tournament. And I had a lot of fun seeing a lot of friends and family, and I actually turned 40 tomorrow. So, I'm trying to make the best of all of it for sure.
Well, you definitely handled it in a positive way, and you should be commended for that. It's an interesting case study because so much of Barstool's success, and you know this, Mintzy, is based on community and based on social media and based on the Stoolies, which was built and ballooned through social media. And I look at your story there, and I think it also probably cost you your job, because if people aren't angry tweeting and posting Penn National, you probably still have a job. They probably responded to people that don't like Barstool that reached out to them, and we've seen it before with bosses. When they see that, they oftentimes respond to the negative. How much do you blame social media response to what eventually happened?
To be honest, what was so interesting about it, because when it happened, I was freaked out that I was going to be too hot to touch for a while because of the nature of society. But I don't think the mob ever came for them. I think they just said, we're not allowing racial slurs to be said, period. It's a no tolerance policy. But there was never a big social media outcry against me really at all. And I think a lot of it has to do with, when you work for Barstool, so much of your life is on social media. And the way I've tried to carry myself the last 2.5 years, I mean, I'm a Christian. I don't say F-bombs or GD on air. Like, I'm way toned down compared to a lot of Barstool people. And the week before, I ran a 10K on the Yak that raised like $50,000 for families fighting child cancer. And everybody saw that. And so I think all that stuff kind of reflected well on my character. And people saw, like, that's more what I'm about. I'm not a hateful person. And I think because of that, I got a little bit of the benefit of the doubt publicly.
Online sports betting illegal in 21 states now. That was the story, is that they're pointing to regulation and government regulation and licenses for where they want to be or where they are that they may lose. Is that accurate, and as to why they made this move?
I mean, that's what they said. Like, I'll be honest, I am on the Barstool side of it. I never spoke to anyone at Penn at all. I was dealing with Dave and Erica and the Barstool side of it. That's what they told Dave. That's what Dave says. I trust Dave Portnoy. He's a guy. The thing about Dave, he never lies. I mean, he's all about brutal truth and honesty to a fault. So if that's what he says, I'm sure that's what happened. Obviously, I thought it was unfortunate, but I mean, I think, the thing about life, I got to deal with it. I got to move on. And I think I've got, a pretty good situation coming up the next few months. So I think it's going to be all right.
Yeah, you got World Series of Poker, right?
Yeah, so it's really fun for me. And I'm lucky to have this. So I was a poker pro from 2006 to 2014. And that was all I did. I was top 200 in the world in online poker at one point, and I've done really well in the World Series main event. And so with summer coming up, I get to go play the World Series of Poker. I have backers who put up my buy-ins, and then I took a 6-week job with Poker Go. So it's kind of like, it's funny. I feel like I'm in high school or college, and I'm like going to summer camp with the summer job. But for Poker Go, I'm going to be doing play-by-play of some World Series final tables, reporting, podcast content. But they're super cool. Like, go play the WSOP and just work for us when you're not playing. And so I think it's an awesome situation. I fly out Friday, June 2nd. I'll be in Vegas through the end of the main event, probably till July 15th or 20th. They're also cool with maybe me taking off. I might end up in Omaha at some point, running around. I don't have to do the whole 6 weeks, but I do have to be there for the main. So I think it's, while I'm figuring out the next big decision, it's a perfect bridge job and situation. And, I love getting to fire poker again. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Mintzy with us here on Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow across the OutKick network. So the one thing I've noticed, you're not running the circuit trying to make excuses or trying to make people feel sorry for you. I don't know how you don't feel bitter. Maybe you do, but you don't portray it. Because on one hand, as Chad mentioned, Barstool is known for the anti-cancel culture. We're going to say what we want, and we can apologize for it, but suspension at worst. I'll go back to that. And then on top of it, I think also, how long had you been at Barstool? Not even 3 years, right?
Yeah, it was two. I got hired in October of 2020, so
Okay.
two and a half.
So I wonder, did that play into it? Did the fact that you're a white guy from the South and an Ole Miss fan play into it? I'm just trying to figure out why they didn't listen to Portnoy.
Yeah, look, the thing about it is, it's like unfortunate. I literally wish I could tell you what played into it, but I haven't communicated with Penn Gaming at all. So whatever, I don't know what happened behind closed doors. Obviously, they had a zero tolerance policy. Penn took over 100% of Barstool in February. Clearly, they're more corporate, and they had a zero tolerance policy for what I said, even if it's, off my phone and no maliciousness. They just said you can't do this, period. And I don't know what they said, all the stuff you're asking about. Like, all I know is Barstool had my back and Penn did not, and that's all I got for you.
Maybe you're a healthier person than I am. I'd want to know specifically who made the decision at Penn, even if I hadn't met them before. Do you know specifically who made the decision? Do you want to know who made that call?
I don't know who made the ultimate call, but the buck does stop with Jay Snowden, the CEO. But I don't have a relationship with him, and I've never met him. But you got to think he's the CEO, and that's who the buck stops with. I don't know if it was a board meeting or what, but that's all. Like I said, I hate being vague, but I just really don't know.
What do you think's next for Portnoy after the contract's up? He specifically mentioned 20 months. He didn't mention January 2025. He mentioned everything's up in 20 months. I thought that was very specific.
Look, when it comes to Dave Portnoy, I know he's probably up to something, but I don't even want to begin to guess because I literally have no idea. But I do know that I still have a great relationship with him and with Big Cat and with Erica. And I think, it's nice that even though it sucks that I left Barstool, at least I left on good terms with the whole company, and you never know what the future holds.
Well, what's next for you after this 6-week summer job stint with poker, as you described it, is up? Well, what do you want to do next?
Well, I think I'm sitting back, and I'm lucky. There's definitely some interest in me right now, which is a first world problem. Because as I said, because the hot button nature of this, I was worried I was going to have to just go play poker for a year or two until this calmed down. But that it's kind of broke the other way. I'm trying to be extremely calculated about the next decision. But the thought is, I don't know when I'm going to announce the next move, but I'm looking to start something in early to mid-August, right before football season, is the thought. I'm going to enjoy the poker thing through July 15th or 20th, and then, be looking to take something for fall. I might announce something sooner than that, but that's kind of the way I'm looking at it. And I'm not closing any doors. I love living in uptown New Orleans. I did the New York thing for a couple of years, and it wasn't necessarily my favorite, but I mean, in the situation I'm in, anybody that is interested in me, I'm listening to everybody.
You feel like you and I are the same age. You feel like you're a bit of a crossroads?
Yeah, it's interesting though. Turning 40 tomorrow, like it's, birthdays or whatever as you get older, but the 40th one kind of makes you sit back and evaluate life. And even with this happening, I'm really happy where I'm at. I've made a lot of great changes in my life. I've gotten healthier. I quit drinking 3 years ago, and I feel like I've got a lot of great relationships and opportunities, and I love living in NOLA. And, it could always be worse. I think one thing I do that people laugh, but I feel like I try to do mental gymnastics, and I try to make every negative into a positive because I believe like positive energy, runs the world. And you put out good vibes and energy, the universe will come back to you. So I try to live by that.
Let's talk a little football. Nick Saban not happy with the direction of things right now at SEC Media Days in Destin. He said as much. He asked the question, do any of you really like the direction of where we're headed in college athletics right now? Ben, what do you think about where things are headed right now in college football and what specifically Saban is talking about in regards to the SEC?
Well, I think the thing is, I don't mind. I know the SEC getting bigger with Oklahoma and Texas, but with the playoffs going to 12 teams, 9-3 record out of the SEC is going to get you into the playoffs now. And so, even with it getting tougher and deeper, you're not going to have to win every single game like you used to at the playoffs. So I like that part of the 12-team playoff. As far as all the NIL Wild Wild West stuff, they do need to figure out a way to regulate it a little better. Because a lot of these kids are getting contracts etched in sand. Are they actually getting paid all the stuff that they're being promised? I feel like they need to figure out a way to regulate it. I don't know if you do a salary cap or what, but it's too. I just said regulated 3 times, but it's too unregulated right now, and there needs to be some kind of structure. But having said all that, I'm happy the players are getting paid. I mean, when you're looking at these billion-dollar TV deals and stuff, a lot of these players coming from poor economic backgrounds, that's their window in life to make money is their college years, and they're giving their bodies. So, I mean, I'm all about the players getting paid and compensated. So I'm not against that at all.
Ben Mintz, Mincy, formerly of Barstool, with us at Destroyer Mincy on social. The thing that went viral over the weekend was late last week was Auburn playing up the fact that they have a Buc-ee's now. I guess they're the only SEC program with a Buc-ee's in their town, which is hilarious. And by the way, I mean, I'd love to have a Buc-ee's in every town. Let's put it that way. If you don't know what it is, for those listening or watching, it's a truck stop on crack is how to describe it. Think of a Walmart and then think of a truck stop.
It's a full experience when you go in there. I was just there this past weekend.
It's a theme park. You have to stop if you see one. Auburn's playing it up, Mincy, and of course that led to the others like South Carolina and what the other programs what would come to mind for them. South Carolina's propping up, the Waffle House, tongue in cheek. Waffle House and Bojangles, the only school in the country with the closest Bojangles and Waffle House to their stadium. I mean, hilarious. I want one for every single program.
Well, his Mincy's Ole Miss Rebels with a great one also, chicken on a stick at a Chevron.
Yeah.
To me, this was my favorite response was Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss to the Buc-ee's post. This is great, right, Mincy?
No, it's so funny because the chicken on a stick is such a cultural thing in Oxford. It's that Chevron's kind of right off the square. And, when I was younger, leaving the bar, I definitely did the late night chicken on a stick a lot. So it's a big cultural thing. And so I thought it was pretty funny that Lane.
The mic drop was for LSU, where they're the program that will steal money from a children's hospital, the only school in the SEC to do that. Now, of course, that was a booster that embezzled $800,000 that was supposed to go to a children's hospital foundation. And again, the mic drop moments. And I didn't say, did we see one for Knoxville, Chad?
No, but there's actually, I noticed this weekend going to Smoky Mountains, there's a Buc-ee's being built off the Sevierville exit, 20 miles from downtown Knoxville, off exit 407 on 40. So I guess now they can tout that. Everyone's making fun of Auburn, though, right, Mincy? When I saw this, my first response was they're clearly poking fun at Auburn for this, but in a way also has something to brag about for themselves.
Yeah, it's funny. I love all this kind of stuff, though. The humor in the SEC, it always cracks me up. I'm real curious on the Auburn front, on the football front, though, how Freeze is going to do. I like them getting Peyton Thorne from Michigan State. I think he's good at pushing the ball down the field. I think year one Freeze at Auburn. I mean, they're going to be a little more dangerous than people think. It's probably going to be tough when Ole Miss plays them from now on with the Freeze thing. That's for sure.
So your level of fright as an Ole Miss guy with Lane Kiffin now versus Hugh Freeze, obviously knowing intimately what both can do as a coach, from an Ole Miss perspective, how afraid are you as an Ole Miss fan that Hugh Freeze is going to get there and start winning right away?
Look, the thing about Hugh Freeze, love him or hate him, he wins everywhere he goes. I mean, whether it's women's high school basketball, Briarcrest football, Arkansas State, Liberty, Ole Miss, I mean, he's won everywhere. And so I think he's going to do really well at Auburn. The thing about Freeze teams is they're great at pulling off upsets, but he'll lose a couple that he's supposed to win too.
Mm-hmm.
He does a great job getting his team up for big games, and that's part of why he's at Auburn, because he beat Alabama twice at Ole Miss. But I think he's going to get it going pretty quick. I think Auburn's got a great fan base and home field advantage, and so it's not going to be easy. As far as the Ole Miss front, schedule's murder this year. I think Ole Miss is going to be a better football team than they were last year, but last year they started 7-0, playing a cream puff war. This year, road games at Georgia, at Alabama, at Auburn, at Mississippi State, and then week 2 in Uptown New Orleans at Tulane's real tricky.
Yes,
I feel like Ole Miss is heading for a 7. I think 8 wins would be a great season with the schedule, but I actually think they're going to be a better team than they were last year. But the record's not going to show it probably.
How did Kiffin land all 3 of those quarterbacks?
That's a good question. My thing, I don't think the situation looks good for Jackson Dart. I don't think you're bringing in a 4-year starter in Sanders and Walker Howard if you thought Dart could be the guy. So it doesn't look good on the surface. I mean, who knows? You know, I'm not in the quarterback room, obviously. The big thing for Ole Miss is how Pete Golding, who came over from Bama, he's done a great job recruiting in the transfer portal. But Ole Miss got put in a bad spot last year. Lane hired Chris Kiffin, his brother, came back from Cleveland Browns. He was the D-line coach. Well, he came back to Ole Miss to be the defensive coordinator. And then 6 weeks later, he's like, I'm over this college football NIL, and left. And so Ole Miss had to promote Chris Partridge, who is like an NIL guy and kind of a position coach, to be the defensive coordinator. And, unfortunately, defense didn't do as well. And so hopefully Pete Golding can help the defense a lot. That's something that Ole Miss really needs to improve this year to compete.
Mintzy with us. You mentioned the World Series of Poker and all that. Any good Doyle Brunson stories from behind the scenes? The legendary poker player, 10-time winner who passed away earlier this month?
Well, so like so many people that started playing poker, he had a book called Super Systems that I read at the very beginning. And I think so many people did when they were learning poker, where he really explained why being aggressive and putting opponents to decisions for all their chips and being unpredictable is such a profitable strategy. But I don't have any. I mean, I've walked by him a few times, but unfortunately I never met him. So I don't have any too crazy stories, but they honored him today. The World Series of Poker started today with a $25,000 six max. They had a moment of silence for Doyle. And, that's like losing Babe Ruth in baseball. I mean, you can't lose someone like that, but he lived such a full life and just such an all-time legend and character that, he will be greatly missed forever.
Mintzy, thank you for the time, man. We appreciate the perspective and the honesty. And look, you mentioned you've got options. And the public has your back too, it seems. The outpouring of support is the opposite of, I know, of what you expected would happen. And despite that, they still fired you, which is still mind-blowing to us on this end. So keep your head up like you're doing, man, because you're doing a great job at doing that.
Yeah, it's going to be a great summer. Anybody that wants to support Poker Go, sign up with code Mintzy, get $20 off. I'm going to be doing commentary for Final Tables. It's going to be awesome. If you want to follow the World Series of Poker, sign up and follow Poker Go.
Hit that again.
So yeah, I'll say it again. Sign up, Poker Go. We're going to have live streams of all the World Series of Poker Final Tables, main event coverage. I'm going to be out in the wild doing reporting, doing commentary, podcasts, whatever. But if anybody that wants to follow the World Series of Poker, sign up for Poker Go, code Mintzy. It's $20 off if you use that code. I get a little bit of referral back, and I think it's like $60 or $70 for yearly subscription, so it's not too bad.
Hey, man, appreciate the time. Enjoy it, and we'll catch up soon.
Good luck with everything.
Yeah, thank y'all. I appreciate y'all having me on.
Yeah, man. Ben Mintz, Ole Miss, the Rebel. Man, I still want to know the backstory on the quarterbacks at Ole Miss.
Yeah.
They just kept landing them.
Embarrassment of riches. And also, Jackson Dart was the talk of spring practice from the head coach.
Yes.
About how great he responded and how he was the best quarterback there. You wonder how much of that is talk.
Well, he's already got the guys.
To keep him on the roster.
Yes. He didn't leave.
You come with the fall camp, and now suddenly Spencer Sanders is fully healthy, and he's the better option.
I think. Because it's gamesmanship.
Positive dude. You got to appreciate the positivity from Mintzy. There's plenty to unpack from that conversation.
Yes, we'll unpack some of the things he said there about Penn Entertainment, Barstool, and the 100% ownership factor that Portnoy does not have, and what's next for him. That's next on Hot Mic.
Primary complaint is when you let somebody cross the street while you're driving and they purposely take their time when they see that they are waiting for you crossing the street. That is my primary complaint, and it drives me crazy.
My primary complaint is people who talk on speakerphone in public.
People that chew too loud.
Number one pet peeve, telemarketers. Number two pet peeve, when people don't understand the menu that they're serving. Number three pet peeve, when people ask for change but they have no quarters. Number four pet peeve, parallel parking.
My primary complaint is I can't just go to a bar and have a nice quiet beer. There's all this live music every freaking where. Like, I'm just trying to go to a bar, relax, have a beer, watch the game, but no, we gotta have these guitar players and these bands. Why can't I just hang out and just relax, have a beer, and watch the Memphis Grizzlies? I mean, is that too much to ask?
I do not appreciate or condone anybody that litters. I think you got to keep your planet clean. It's turning your nose up to everybody that has to clean your up with littering.
My primary complaint would be wobbly tables at restaurants.
Another pet peeve I have is no courtesy flushing. No one believes in that. I believe in it. Thank you. Another pet peeve I have is when people have AirPods in. Excuse me. Another pet peeve I have is when people have AirPods in and they're singing louder so everyone can hear what they're not supposed to listen to.
When people eat smelly food on the airplane.
Dishes left in the sink.
My primary complaint is when I'm out to eat with somebody and they bite their fork as they are putting the fork in their mouth to eat.
When people bite their fork and scrape that, and when they're eating dinner, you can hear like it's like nails on a chalkboard. Hell no.
My primary complaint is when people complain about me when I bite my fork.
Those folks who are in the airport talking on their cell phone very loud so everybody else can hear what they're saying even though we really don't care.
My primary complaint are drivers who do not stop on a pedestrian crosswalk. Period.
My last pet peeve is that when people text you, they text you that they're busy, or if you call them, they answer and say they can't talk. Either way, just don't respond. You can't text me, don't text me back. And if you can't answer the phone, don't answer the phone to tell me you can't talk.
Wrapping up what's been a fast show on this Tuesday after Memorial Day weekend. Hutton and Withrow with you. Hot Mic across the OutKick Network. 6th and Peabody, our location with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Things are about to get busy this week and next week here with CMA Fest just around the corner. A lot of concerts and events throughout the city. Jam-packed.
We just had Mintzy on talking about Jazz Fest in New Orleans, and here in Nashville, CMA Fest is about to invade.
How about Mintzy?
He was good.
Yeah, he's not feeling sorry for himself. He's not trying to get others to do that. In fact, I mean, he said he was surprised with the response by the overall public, but that is what Barstool. He got fired for being Barstool. You know, he didn't mean to say what he said. Portnoy even admitted that in the two different times he's addressed this, the day of and then the morning after when he got fired. Said he had his back, nothing he could do about it because, again, he sold the company. 100% of it's with Penn Entertainment. And the backlash or not, no backlash, it didn't matter. Mintzy still got fired. And Penn's pointing to the political game of it, the gaming of it, and the licensing that comes with the gambling licenses that they need and that they covet. And to me, there's a brand that they purchased that they did not stand with in this instance. And I think anyone watching it, you read a headline like this and you immediately think one thing. I think if you watch it and you see what happened, you know he made a stupid but honest mistake.
I mean, look, I'm going to speculate here because I don't know anyone involved. That was my first chance to talk to Mintzy. I've hung out and met Dave Portnoy before, but he's not the one making this decision. And Mintzy was explicit about that he wanted him to still be employed, and he's not. So someone at Penn Gaming, I think someone just didn't like him. I think someone probably watched the clip for the first time, that some corporate overlord and doesn't like a Southern guy for whatever reason, and heard him saying that word as a Southern guy, mistake or not, and decided, I don't want this guy around. And they weren't willing to listen to people that understood the Barstool brand a lot more than them, which are Erica Nardini, the CEO, and Dave Portnoy, the founder. And they decided to make the decision unilaterally on their own. And then they hid behind we're not going to get gaming license in these states if we don't fire this guy, which is just stupid. Yeah. That's not the case at all. I think that's ultimately what happened, and it's sad. That's why I wanted to ask him, do you know who fired you? Do you know who it was that made the decision? Because I'd want to know that, because to me it seems like a situation where someone just, even if they didn't know him, they don't like him in his style, and they're probably not someone from the South, and they saw it and thought, we don't need this guy. This isn't what we want to be. This isn't Barstool. And even though Portnoy and Erica and everyone there had his back and went to bat for him, didn't matter.
Yeah, but
that's just me. That's my guess on what happened.
Didn't want him there, but again, that the elements that backed him are why they purchased the company.
Exactly.
Barstool and Big Cat.
And this is a big issue.
And that's the fascinating aspect of it, is they paid reported $551 million for the full purchase. The stock, when it dropped, based on Darren Ravel, I believe, called it a lukewarm earnings report, paired with this news, it dropped where Penn Entertainment was worth, just less than $700 million. But when you consider what they paid for, again, that you're buying the brand, and the brand is Portnoy, Big Cat, and those that have been there for the duration, right? And when they're publicly saying in an emergency press conference after Mintzy had been fired that they had nothing, there was nothing else they could do, they had his back, and they disagree with the decision. I don't know why you make that move if you're going to get that backlash from the brand that you purchased and spent $500 million on. That makes no sense to me.
It's a bad business move by them. I mean, it's showing itself right now, but to not listen to Portnoy and Erica, maybe there's pride involved here. Maybe there's, like I said, just...
As Portnoy said, though, and he said, hey, this is what they're saying. Penn was saying they were getting pressure from government because there are political figures who hate Barstool and what they stand for with the free speech aspect of it. the non-apology apologies type stuff where I'm sorry that you're offended. I'm offended that you're offended, and I apologize for that. And there have been state senators and legislators that have said, like, I can't vote through Penn because they're partnered with Barstool. And that's before this incident. So that part is believable when they're looking for gaming licenses, specifically in the state of Massachusetts and in the Northeast.
Then out someone for corruption. I mean, if they're going to go behind the scenes and say that I'm going to see to it that we pull your gaming license or this happens because an employee of someone of a parent company that they bought did this and the person's being disciplined, but they weren't fired, if that's going to be the reason that a gaming license either isn't accepted or is disbanded, that's borderline criminal. Then you should out those people that do that.
They said that publicly. Portnoy said that in his first presser that evening.
Oh, I know they said it, but who was it? I want to know names. What state senators or what politicians reached out to Penn Gaming and said these things? Because that's ridiculous.
Well, I don't know if they're what they said, but they were definitely feeling heat. Or if they're trying to lobby. I mean, if you want to talk about corruption, there's lobbyists on both sides of this game.
Look, he opened the door when he made the mistake. You mentioned it was a dumb mistake, an honest mistake, but a dumb mistake. And he's owned that, Mintz has, that he opened the door to whatever happened, and he got fired. I just think it's an insanely dumb branding decision, and I'm sure Dave Portnoy told his bosses that. Look, we stand against this. We are going to trash this guy. We're going to make his life miserable by making fun of him, and he's going to issue an apology. We're going to own it as a mistake, but do not fire him because we know his heart. We know what he is. We know what he's meaning behind everything. I think they made a bad business decision. They're going to point to, well, we're going to lose this, this, and this, and maybe that's true, maybe it's not, but I think it was a bad brand decision for Barstool.
Sure, yeah. To me, they bought the brand, and they went against the brand. But they stuck with the brand whenever Portnoy had allegations. And who knows what they were facing then in terms of heat or pressure.
Now the question will be how long until ESPN fires someone on McAfee's staff that he doesn't want fired or let go.
Yeah. And
is that going to cause a big problem? I think it might. Because he's a loud, outspoken, loyal guy.
Yes.
Like Dave Portnoy.
We're back at it tomorrow, 3 o'clock Eastern for the Wednesday edition. We hope you'll join us for Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow across the OutKick Network. Have a great evening.